Greetings everybody and welcome to another Wu-Sabat Outformation class UK, brought to you by All Eyes in Egypt, Midlands and the North, as a part of United Sabians worldwide. Excuse me. If you do want to know more information about who we are, and we'll touch upon it a little bit today, check out unitedsabiansworldwide.com. Also, our Facebook page, All Eyes in Egypt, Midlands and the North, for us, what we're doing here locally. And we have a YouTube channel by the same name, All Eyes in Egypt, Midlands and the North. I'd be grateful if people are minded to subscribe if they want more information or want to get future parts of the classes that we've done. We've got over 70 classes on there. A breadth of knowledge. And I say we're not the only All Eyes in Egypt, so check out various classes taking place around the world to enhance your knowledge. I say if you want more information on what we've been teaching, then check out our YouTube channel and subscribe there with our Facebook page as well. Okay, so today my name is Nabab Hess, and I'm one of the student teachers, and will be a student teacher for today. Talking to you about the proof by way of Nabab Yaanuwn, one of the actual facts series. Let me see here a picture of it, what it looks like. And part 22, and I think the symbols of the life journey is what we're focusing on, which is the bit down here between verses 335 and 675. So we started sort of this channel of it, and I say the channel, not the channel itself, but the channel of the class. So we've diverted into this theme of within the proof. I think for the last, probably about this is probably week 3 of that. So we're going to be spending some time today talking to you about ether, and that's following on from part 21, where we're doing a bit of a recap on ether. So just so we can get into understanding what's being spoken about from 335 onwards. So if you're joining us for the first time today, welcome. And let's say it is an interactive session. Sometimes we may be getting quite heavy, so maybe people feel that I don't need to ask no questions. But if there's something you're sitting there and you don't understand, it's going to be a lot easier if you ask questions and sit there in ignorance, because some things we may go over for clarity, because we've got new people joining, and from our perspective, we may feel like we're duplicating or repeating ourselves. So that will help us if that is the case, for you to give feedback, or if people asking questions, or if things are clear now, then all of that helps. Okay. Nonetheless, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to assume for now that the sound is okay. If it isn't, please feedback in the chat area. If the sound is not right or the music's too high, just so we can crack on for today. In the first instance, we want to start off the class with Yud. So this is a cultural expression within United Sabians worldwide. So as Musbatu, Yud is one of many, spiritual practices, let's say, and we sort of want to align ourselves with our ancestors to get a positive mental attitude as we approach the task for today. So myself in teaching and you receiving and understanding. So we start off that by aligning ourselves with our ancestors. Now, one of the gifts that was given back to us in this day and time, and the renewal of our story, was our own language provided to us by our master teacher we know as Dr. Malachi KZ York Okran, also known as Nabab Yaanuwn. So if you just join us for the first time, nothing to be afraid of. Black people can be, and other types of people as well, but black people in particular, when it comes to them learning stuff about their own story, it can be a bit skittish, etc. And will click off as soon as they hear something that doesn't align with the belief system sometimes that they've been taught in this society. So we are going to say in the Sabaic language in the first instance, and then we'll translate it into English for full and proper understanding. I'm going to play a recording of it, and that's more so that you can hear kind of the different tones of females and males together, understood, and us being in unison with each other to align spiritually. Do you understand? So we're becoming one once again. So people, unity obviously is the key in this day and time, literally. Okay, so let me just prepare that, and then we'll come back on and continue. Feel free to chant along if that's what you feel emotionally to do.
Nabab, Nadar, Mukhtar, Naut, Muqdad, Badet, Patah, Naut, Mukhlas, Badet, Yaanuwn.
Pa Takyud.
Anuki, Jawef, Pa, Ashuk, Hem, Pa, Paut, Wu, Kalal, Ashuk, Kabun, Jawef, Neya, Anuki, Kasam, Em, Pa, Paut, Wu, Pa, Paut, Kabun, Kasam, Em, Neya, Anuki wahu ane pa paut, Wu pa paut kawun wahu ane neya, Nakuk kadur najab ame kasam em pa paut, Wu chabub ame mushkas Nakuk kadur kawan kalal pafaf nakuk arod jawef pa paut, Ame wase ame aradni kawun laye bakoy jawef ha paut. Anuki abed leye nafashni. Pa paut kawun anuki. Pa paut kadur nakuk kadur. Pa paut amul nakuk amul.
Okay, so that was Pa Takyud, the affirmation, and we started off by saying, Holy, 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 Master, Overseer, Almighty, no God except Patah, no Savior except Yaanuwn. Pa Takyud, the affirmation. We said, I am inside the divine love of the all-expanding, and all divine love is inside me. I am a part of the all-expanding, and the all-expanding is a part of me. I am one as the all-expanding, and the all-expanding is one as me. I can succeed as a part of the all-expanding and fail as an individual purpose. I can be all that I wish in the all-expanding as long as my wish is to stay in the all-expanding. I am never by myself. The all-expanding is I am. The all-expanding can, I can. The all-expanding does, I do. Yeah, so I think, say little by little, one might say, is that as you step through these classes, I think there's more to be understood in the words of that statement. Do you understand? So, as I say, we're a part of existence, and as I say, as we step through these kind of classes, I think you gain greater into an over, maybe for some, an understanding of Pa Takyud and what it means and what your place is as a part of that. I think the key is we're not alone, even though sometimes in life, when you're facing certain problems, you can get tunnel visioned. And I think the key is to always remember there's always options. You understand? Sometimes even if they feel like it, that's not the case. Now, to use, we're on the Zoom platform. I'll do a quick overview. If you need to adjust your audio settings for any reason, these options are here on your panel on the left-hand side. For this is for those who have not dialed in, who are joining us on the platform today. If you are on Facebook Live, you won't see these options. So again, if you do want a more interactive session today, then use the links if you don't have them or not registered already to join us here on the Zoom platform. But if you're comfortable to stay on that platform, that's fine. From January going forward, we will be monitoring that chat. So if there are questions that arise through there, then we'll pick them up as part of the session. At the moment, if you place any questions in that chat, then they'll be picked up likely after the class is finished over the next week or so. So in order to interact, you've got several ways to do that. So the chat button, if you can select everyone as your distribution option, feel free to post in the chat your feedback, etc., etc. There's also a reaction button again, feel free to use that if something moves you emotionally or whatever, for whatever reason. So anything in the chat is not questions. So it can be feedback, etc., etc. But if it's questions for me, I should say, then as a student teacher today, then don't put them in the chat area just so they don't get missed. Yeah. So 2 ways to ask questions. You can come through live, or you can provide a written question for somebody to ask that question on your behalf on the facilitators today, of which you have 2. Hara Nabab Jadefre Tap and Manfu Ba'a Gibab or Sabab, depending on which dialect we're using. Now, so the option, the first one, is to raise one's hand. And if you do so, you'll be able to come through live and ask your question directly. This message will appear on your screen. Simply unmute yourself and then you'll come through live. If you've dialed in, those options are slightly different. So *9 to raise your hand, and then when prompted, you press *6 to unmute yourself. In both instances, if you can mute yourself back once you've finished your interaction, asking your question or the conversation, then just to not disturb the rest of the class with any background noise. If you don't want to come through live, not a problem. Press the Q&A button, type your question in, and then, let's say, one of the facilitators today will ask that question on your behalf as part of today's session. So I say, don't sit there in ignorance. If it's something I can't answer as a student teacher today, there's likely somebody within our organisation or who can answer the question, and if necessary, who we need, we can go to the source. So in that regard. So as I say, we do our best to facilitate your questions today. Now, no poll questions or recap quizzes, I should say, in the session today. However, we will be having one probably likely to be simply on ether, just dealing with that and some different scenarios. So if those when we do that are willing to participate, sometimes, as I say, black people and maybe others who are into this particularly get scared and run from any kind of quiz, you understand? But the examination is part of how we learn. It's more so really, can we understand, I suppose, concepts within Wu-Sabat and apply them in different scenarios, you understand? So I think that's more as the master teacher, being a master teacher and his methodology of teaching. I think that's the thing. Can we grasp certain scenarios that we can apply them in a number of different situations, you understand? So me sitting here sounding heavy, or some other student teacher sitting there sounding heavy, relaying loads of information to you, if you're not retaining it or you can't explain it or etc., then it's fairly pointless me being here in that regard, so, or anybody else being here for that reason. So we're not going to know that unless we do some recaps or quizzes or it's feedback from certain questions, or whether people are understanding what we're saying. And that's not to say that everybody will understand everything immediately from day one, but at least, as I say, you're getting something that you're retaining out of it. As I say, and it's reshaping your understanding of certain subjects. So as we start off, we sort of remind you of the source of this. I think it's important when you're looking at or receiving any kind of knowledge, whether it's reading or through whatever medium you choose to digest that knowledge, that you understand the source or you pay attention to the source, what they think, you understand, loosely, what they believe, if that's a word that you understand in English to use, where they're thinking, where they're coming from. Do you understand? So this is important in terms of what you're consuming. The thing is, you've been taught, because the master teacher for many years said, don't believe me, check it out. Obviously, you may apply that test to his or the knowledge that we are delivering and then fail to apply that test to others. And so this is not what we're talking about. Don't believe me, check it out means don't believe anybody, check them out. Do you understand? In that regard, that how you must, and certainly on the esoteric or the spiritual journey, or your transformation journey or your ascension journey, that you have to have those qualities where we are open-minded about, because we need to be, because there's certain subjects, as I say, under and above the sun, that we have little to no understanding about, and therefore we have to put some level of trust, I use that loosely, in somebody to walk us on that journey or that path, whilst checking. But at the same time, you need to check everybody else out also. You understand? Because there's no apps, certainly from the information that's in this society today, in the modern era, there's no absolute. They're not teaching apps. They may come across like they're teaching absolute truth, but you have to verify that. So just because we teach you something and then you go to another source and you seek confirmation, well, what's that source? You understand? That's confirming. So we have a habit, and today that's becoming a lot easier now with Google, Chat GPT, which I was on a bit earlier today. Ask Chat GPT a question, and okay, Chat GPT, great, that's a really good answer. So it appears. Can you confirm the source? I can't say the source. It's from different licensing, different authors, blah 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 blah. Going back to 2022. If you need further information, check out somebody who's an expert in this subject. So that's fine. That's great in terms of the context of those discussions. But you have to then realize that that's part of the unveiling that was done when your third eye was being sort of cracked open by Wu-Sabat, by way of the master teacher, to force you then to say, listen, pay attention to all sources, because that's going to shape or frame the way the information is being delivered. And so that little principle, at least, you should understand, as somebody certainly has been reading the master teacher's books in that regard, to reshape, as I say, how we think or perceive the environment in and around us. Now, that being said, Dr. Malachi Kaiser-York Kran, known to us in this day and time as Nabab Yaanuwn, and born in Takoradi, Ghana, in West Africa, June 26, 1945, to Mary Abba Akran York. We are, as is the tribe, so he's from the Iwe tribe, or his mother was from the Iwe tribe in Ghana, I suppose, as his descendant, making him that as well, of the Akan tribes in Ghana, who are matriarchal in actuality, and succession and other matters are done through the female line. But that is the essence of Wu-Sabat as well, the spiritual science that we are teaching from and of today, which we are conveying and passing information to you today by way of the spiritual science of the Negroid or Nagaru. Wu-Sabat, understood, is feminine in origin. So it's important that we express that. So when you're looking at a teacher in terms of source, well, who are their parents? You understand? Because without their parents, they wouldn't be here. So in order to show that acknowledgement and respect, understood, and the formulation, of course, of their physical, you're 1/3 your mother, 1/3 your father, and the two of them coming together or being brought together, births a new you, understood? So that's the third part of the triad, so to speak. So Mary Abba Akran York, known as Fatima Miriam, born March 10th, 1929, transitioned to become one of our ancestors, Muslafu, and she can't be destroyed. It only changes in polarity. So we don't pass away as Negroids or Nagaru, we pass on, and it's understood, to higher states of living, if that's what you've qualified for or choose to go. Some return here many times to master this particular physical realm. Now, she crossed over, so become one of our Muslafu. The word means ancestors, or one who is of our ancestors. And in Sabaic, they use the word Masabu for relatives. So our pathway to divinity is not only within us, but it's contained within our family structure. The problem is that we have been unfamiliar with that and haven't had confidence to put requests necessary to that. So we've been limping in the Olympics if we don't acknowledge our own direct ancestors in our bloodstream on into our higher ancestors, known as the Natharu, which means overseers in English, and they are depicted as sons, S-U-N, sons. So, Sacred Feminine, mother of the master teacher, Mary Abba Akran York. And this is her in clan mother attire, although we don't have clan mothers in this day and time. That's more to do with our Native American heritage, but it does go back to ancient Egypt in terms of the feminine Nigon. We covered that in a few classes ago, so check those out if you're more interested in that side of things. Pointing out the lotus flower, symbol of regeneration, associated with the feminine, who is a symbol also of regeneration. Sacred masculine, Al-Hadi Abdul Rahman Al-Mahdi, born 1922. So this is where the Sudanese heritage or side comes from, and the link to that, again, all of this would be by way of sacred feminine, and also links, say, to Ghana as well, because the Mahdi, Al-Hadi Abdul Rahman's grandfather had two Ghanaian wives. So we get Sudanese and Ghanaian, well, not Sudanese from the father, and obviously there's some Ghanaian link back there as well by way of the Mahdi. The Mahdi himself was not Sudanese. So the Mahdi himself was hired by the Sudanese, but he himself would be classified, I suppose, by today's term as a descendant of the pre-dynastic ancient Egyptians. So it's important to note that all roads lead back to ancient Egypt. Understood? We use Egypt with an I as opposed to a Y. One I is the ninth letter of the alphabet. Obviously, it's the word we use for I, denote individual, ego, etc. And it's to distinguish ourselves again from those referring to themselves as Egyptos, who were Greeks who came into Africa and got burnt by the sun. So they were burnt by the sun. You understand, because of their lack of melanin, and so they were called burnt faces in that regard. We were not burnt by the sun. We have an internal sun, and our blackness comes from the fact that we are Etherians in the flesh and able to process the air, understood, like fuel, into firing up our internal solar plexus, our internal sun, as a terrestrial version of the sun. So, excuse me, Sayyid Muhammad Ahmed Al-Mahdi, exceptional human being, understood, but really a good example of where we need to get to, do you understand, in terms of mastering both the physical and the spiritual aspects, you understand, to become 720 again, 360 mastery of the physical, 360 mastery of the esoteric or the spiritual, understood. That's part of a journey to become 720 degrees once again, symbolically speaking. Now, in this school, interesting enough, we were touching upon this in part 21 about the difference between information and outformation, and how Wu-Sabat is, as our spiritual science, is realigning us, reshaping our being, isn't it? We're talking in great lengths about that and showing you about water being secret knowledge, showing you a glass and saying to your understanding, well, what it is that water as knowledge being poured into you as the glass, where it's not just so water takes on the shape or the characteristics of the glass. But for us in this day and time, we can't afford to be that dense in terms of the glass, because Wu-Sabat, it's not that we're teaching Wu-Sabat. Wu-Sabat is informing us. Yeah, it is informing, it is learning us, it is teaching us as our spiritual science. And in so far doing, it is reshaping our mind, reshaping our being, understood, to be realigned once again with our ancestors and us having access to true mind again. Understand? Our own mind, not thinking in somebody else's mind. Yeah, so mind being a link to that mental reservoir of information which we're downloading. So Wu-Sabat is like a frequency, or is a frequency being broadcast which we align to. And when we're aligned with that frequency, we cannot be touched by lower vibrational forces. Understood? So, so in a sense, which we were just giving you just an example, just for your understanding, when the information is coming to us, the information is not just occupying, the glass that was in, i.e. you, but it's also the glass is reshaping itself to match the water. You understand? So you are adjusting to match the frequency of the information coming by way of outformation, understood, which is transforming you, understood, to realign yourself once again. And obviously our ignorance and the bad information that was fed to us while we've been here in this society that cared nothing for people that look whose freckles were too close, in fact, is a haven for oftentimes for hate and exploitation and humiliation through the cancer of the disease from racism. Not to say everybody's racist, I'm talking about the system. Do you understand? In that regard, but it's not served your transformation journey in that regard. So it's interesting, isn't it, that many years after, so my teacher starts teaching in 1963, but took individuals through the School of Islam from 1970, 100 years, in fact, after the establishment of the Ansarullah community in 1870, so exactly 100 years afterwards, in 1970, the Mahdi, which is the guide, gave birth to the reformer. You understand? Interesting word, isn't it? Al-Mujaddid, as they say in the Islamic degree. Reformer. Yes, we're talking about information, outformation. And then somebody now came along as the reformer. Understood? Now, does reform mean to do again, or does it mean to put you in the form of Ray? Yeah, for to be reformed. Yeah, some say, okay, do again, or rebuild, or are we saying align ourselves or put ourselves back into the form of Ray for a people who were basically misformed? Yeah, I'm saying, and you get misformed by being misinformed. Understood? So your perception of the world, it doesn't match your race, it doesn't match your descendants, doesn't match your culture, and it certainly doesn't match your ancestors, and your higher ancestors who are responsible for your creation, understand, or growth. So this is now when we're seeing here that information that was delivered, understood, over 60, well, almost 60 years ago now, over a 60-year period, that the time between them to some degree is irrelevant. And the amazement, I suppose, is the fact that things being taught 50 years ago, things being taught 40 years ago, matching up, you understand, or coming back again, and then helping you to understand something that's been delivered in this day and time. Check out the movie Arrival. It's got an interesting view around language and how time is used. Very interesting movie. So check out the movie Arrival. It's a more modern movie. There's a couple of Arrivals, but the one, I think, where the woman is the lead, I think ginger-haired lady is the lead or whatever. That's the proper Arrival, not the one before that. So in that, the reformer is say introduced in that regard, basically because at that particular time we had a very religious mindset, one might say, and we were not ready for the science of sciences of Wu-Sabat, you understand, which we're getting into today, the actual facts of the here and thereafter doctrine. If you go back and reread books like the Nine Ball, for example, you'll see actually it makes more sense for somebody who's been reading the actual facts. Obviously, you're just coming across this on the first time, probably haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. But first, suffice to say that if you were to go back and reread them, your actual facts, it helps you to understand what was being given in the 60s, and which was really a manual, understood, and a methodology to fix the black race. You understand? Who were sick and diseased. It's a manual to fix the black race. Not only was it giving you sort of spiritual information about how things came around, so you were clear on the origins of everything, you understand, and what a universe was, its size, how it's different facts basically around existence that would help to make things a little bit clearer. But there were also practicalities in there around us as a race and how we need to fix our position. If we're in jobs, how to work our way out of that, etc., and many things of that nature. For example, the kids in school, they kind of, we've said this before, but they wait until whatever 15, don't they, or whatever 16, and then they start having careers advice at that particular point when the master teacher explaining, well, the kids should know how to do, or the children, I should say, should be having those discussions at age 9 and 10. So you understand, at the end of whatever primary school, if that's what you people around the world, and of course go to different types of school, but about 9 and 10. This way, you use the school system to train you, or to at least get you into the subjects or whatever that's going to help you to do that career. If you want to be a pilot, for example, you probably need to focus on maths, physics, you understand, maybe geography, things of that nature. So you want to focus an emphasis from a younger age than wait until when you're 16. Now you find out, well, I was doing art and drama. Well, and for however many years that they were teaching, because I like those things. Well, but you wanted to be a pilot. That's not going to help you to be a pilot. So the career discussion, let's say, or what you want to fulfill in terms of whatever profession, if that's what they call it, in life, you need to have those discussions early. So it's practical things like that, which have been taught to us in the 60s. But, we wanted to believe in Moses and Abraham and Muhammad and these types of characters, unproven Jesus, unproven, mythology, not to offend anybody's religion, but unproven characters. It's not so much Muhammad, but the other characters certainly unproven, and the stories surrounding them unproven. So we were more interested in that than practicality. So we didn't spend, as it was pointed out to us later, well, why didn't we ask, if this being was sent to us by our ancestors, why didn't we all ask, well, pops, how do we become millionaires? You understand? Or how do we start taking over certain big industries, medicine, whatever, housing, infrastructure, construction, these types of things? No, we wanted to say, interested in Moses and Cain and Abel and Adam and Eve. You understand? So we didn't necessarily use the being that was sent to us, time, maybe in the best way. So, but that's what that is. But that's what the methodology that's used in ancient Egypt. The being was known as Tahuti. So the reason why we don't dig up out the bones of our ancestors to find out who we are is because there's an outformational into informational transformation that takes place within nature in various different cycles. One of those being the 24,000 year cycle, where our story must renew itself. So we can see that we have a lot of up and downs within nature, which is not really necessarily how it's supposed to be. But obviously we've found ourselves caught up in these cycles of sort of being up at certain points and then down, and now we need to get back to where we were above, not say we're outside of, but certainly above some of these cycles, so we retain, certainly a balanced position, and not find ourselves in the situation where we're knowing then forget, knowing then forget, and in the states where we're forgetting, those are taking, the lower thoughts are taking advantage of us for the propagation of their forces or for their ascension. And then this obviously lasts certainly 6,000 or so years. And in the previous cycle, just moved into a new 24,000 year cycle. But in the previous cycle, clearly at our lowest point in the last 6,000 years, we now have put ourselves in a position where we're now subservient to other races. And so by way of religion. So whether it's Islam, the home really of slavery and kidnapping other races to exploit them. Do you understand? In that regard, still going on today. White people catching the blame for a lot of that stuff, but actually the Arabs, the Arabs are a big part of that. You understand? So how can you be part of something where the roots of it is going to have you in subserviency? Obviously, we know, or more familiar with, wrong racism perpetrated by the Mukasu or the Caucasians in that regard. And so those religions or their spiritual sciences are not going to work for you notwithstanding, because it wasn't designed for you, if you want to just keep it plain and simple. Do you understand? So you have to deal with what's optimized for you. So in this world today, until the renewal of our story kicked back in again, this was largely unknown, understood, and as part of the recycled information into the here and the thereafter, the science of Wu-Sabat had to inform its descendants of the new name of this science within, as part of its purpose, understood, so that your mind would be realigned with your ancestors again, as well as your soul, etc. So it wouldn't be there to be taken advantage of, or the energy of you is not there to be taken advantage of by other races, unless you specifically direct to do so. Do you understand? You're not being manipulated to do that through ignorance, not knowing. So the way our story is renewed, in ancient Egypt, the term, or today I suppose in the new cycle information, the term Nabab Achata obviously is used, who the Egyptians referred to as Tahuti, understood? And so this is a vehicle or vessel that our ancestors used to communicate information through. So physical vessel, whole light being housed, do you understand? It is connected, as I say, to all sources of knowledge or information necessary, and are able then to design a doctrine, as I say, to fix the problem that the black race in particular, the Nagaru race, is suffering from. And basically those who respect us for being who we are as us and want to learn and embrace the culture, etc., are equally considered to be our brothers and sisters. No one wins the race in racism, understood? However, we have a specific pathway designed for us that we can't basically, because of unfortunately, because bad information or because of what people have done in the past. If we need to talk about it, well, part of the problem of talking about it or correcting the problem is you have to highlight the manipulation that's been done. So, as I say, if you was in a domestic violence center of acts perpetrated against women, and they was in this environment healing, then and you walked in there as an observer, and you listen to some of the stuff that was going on, it may sound anti-men. You understand? It may sound anti-men. Well, to build up their self-esteem, understood, for all the damage that's been done psychologically, and to rebalance them, it's going to sound anti-men. The same way, yeah, and that conversation needs to be had in order to get the woman to be rebalanced again, so that they can, whatever, put their trust in men again, move throughout society, because we're dealing with men, so on and so forth, and maybe even end up back in an agreeable, positive, non-abusive relationship. You understand? So there's a rebalancing. You have to be anti to get back to being, balanced again. If the teaching or whatever, or the healing center that you're receiving understands how to build you back again. So in a similar way, yeah, we have there's a part of it when we're talking about what the Mukasu has done and the games that have been played systematically and things of that nature. It's going to sound could sound anti-white. Yeah, it could sound anti-white, but we wouldn't say no. It wouldn't say no one wins a race in racism if we're promoting racism. You understand? So the fact of the matter is, in order for us to heal, but no one wants us to have that conversation. Difficult conversation, because it's going to make you feel uncomfortable. Understood? Well, stuff your uncomfortability. We have to be ruthless, you understand, in our ascension pathway, because if we don't do the things at the right time within these natural cycles where there's no do-overs, you understand? If something's supposed to happen at this particular time within the 24,000 years cycle, which are aligning with other cycles, then it needs to be done at that time. And if you miss it, well, you got to wait for the whole thing to happen again. Sometimes no alternative. So we make it difficult for our ancestors, and the society wants to make it difficult for us, you understand, to realign ourselves with who we're supposed to be. Everybody has a problem when black people want to have a conversation about black people, and even black people have a problem with black people having a conversation about black people. You understand? So so the reality is to break out of that. You understand? They sent, some teachers to some hard-headed people. This is where we find ourselves today. So the methodology of doing that is from outformational context into informational context. Yeah, outformation, that broadly being what takes place outside the planet Earth, in the sense coming into the planet Earth to inform us and realign ourselves, as I say, with our ancestors. And in the context of the religious degrees, this was Dr. Malachi York, housed by being referred to as El Khadir, or the Green One, took us through the religious degrees, basic information before you leave Earth. Some say Bible means, but those early degrees, each one of them had an esoteric side to them. But all roads, once you learn Islam, Judaism, Christianity, so to speak, you in your pathway back, and then finally came from ancient Sumer, all roads lead back to ancient Egypt, which is in Africa. And so once the bridge between religion and reality was built, by way of the introduction of our own scripture in this day and time, the Holy Tablets, which came around about 1996 in the first edition. And then we were introduced further down the line in the year 2000 to this new combination to really teach us the hereafter doctrine, hereafter the devil's rule ended, 9th of 9th, 1999. Yeah, to that bridge between religion, bringing us back into reality and realignment, where you're learning now about who you are. You understand? And what you're supposed to be doing, your purpose, so on and so forth, not through the guise of religious books that were introduced, you understand, in the ghostational or 6 ether cycle, you understand, individual ghostational cycle. So the dead forces, you understand, 6 ether forces, so books like the Bible, for example, which contains the Torah, and obviously into the Quran, all of those people in those books are dead. In the sense of the dead information, understood. The Book of the Dead is the book of the true name for it is the Book of the Coming Forth by Day. It doesn't deal with the dead. You understand? Excuse me, but has information in there which basically helps us with our ascension journey. And the key, obviously, key elements about monatomic elements and things of that nature, which is basically helping to transform you back from mortal back into deity again. Do you understand? With our understanding of the symbolism of the solar journey. Do you understand? As we've touched upon in many classes, but also emphasizing last week as a bit of a reminder. Understood? So this combination was necessary in this day and time, which will take us through to our full transformation. Do you understand? So we had to have a bit of the poison, the misinformation, as part of the antidote in order to cure us, or at least have enough trust that we'd be able to take that journey on a long walk, on a short path. Understood? Which means a lot of information has to be conveyed in a very short period of time. Time being obviously critical, really, between 1970 and 2030, symbolic of the hour. So let's get into where we were last week, a bit of introduction. Are there any questions?
No questions.
Okay, so I think that if memory serves me correctly, we were going into ether. Now, the context of why we were having this ether discussion, if memory serves me correctly, was because in the proof, we were being introduced to certain terminology. Ether, like life ether, Negro neurogenesis, you understand? Neuroplasticity, different things that, like, okay, wow, what's all that mean? So we were basically needed to go away somewhere to come back to get some under into an understanding. Let me just see. So okay, so we were looking at this page 65, and we were sort of going away to come back. So because we wanted to give a reminder about some of these terms here. So ether in particular, to get just a better understanding of what was taking place. And we were just sort of giving out, say, a quick overview or reminder around, matter or material and energy, and how that relates to ether, or these states that have to be kind of created, where you're sort of bringing absolute matter and absolute vacuum into, I suppose, unison with each other. You understand, like a musician is playing a tune, for example, or you think about someone drumming. Yeah, it's about bringing the sound and the non-sound into sync, and that's what creates the kind of magic of what we consider to be a tune that we like, or that somebody is a great musician versus somebody not being a great musician. They're able to take the two kind of states and sort of work them. So the non-play is as equally as important as the play, you understand? And then what makes it one sound certainly good from now is timing, isn't it? So the thing that brings it together is mind as time. Understood? So we're describing this process where things, or us as things, are subject to certain rules within existence. The rules of things, you understand, and rules of existence, you understand, working within with each other, so to speak. Being, becoming, became. You understand? So we overlaid to you last time those three suns, or there's four suns, but the three ones above, the horizon, Atum, Atun, Amun. You understand? And in our lives, we showed you about, when you're first born, life, as you live through your life, and that's Atum point, living through your life. You understand? Living, that's the Atum, Tun point, excuse me. And then as you go through the doorway of death, then you're at that Amun point. Understood? Lived. So life, living, lived. But obviously that's the journey in the physical. These processes start before that. Understand? So the cause and effect. That's what we're interested in. So it starts with things, or certainly for ours, and so things, or us as things, going through it in the world of things, not some things, but the world of no things. No things does not mean nothing. It means no finite forms of energy that don't have an atomic weight. Understood? By modern day instrumentation. So here in this context, so in that journey of things going forward, we're learning about, as I say, the connection of the mind or mental within existence and your individual mind, and how it must build as part of fulfilling that requirement of being, becoming, became. It must build forms and spaces going forward for it to express itself. Do you understand? And part of it is what we're reading about here, but we're looking to obviously understand some of these technical terminologies to help us get some, as I say, what's being expressed by the master teacher. So you're in a day and time where it's not just a case of, your understanding of, God clicked his fingers and then things came into being. Remember, those early degrees, if they were part of what we were dealing with, let me just move that from the screen. If they were considered, if we were looking back, for example, and we looked at the monotheistic religions, and if we were to give them some validity, they would be to us as the ancient Egyptian what you'd be teaching a kid of 3 or 2. You understand? 2, 3 years old, 4 years old. You understand? Maybe even that's an insult to us at even that age. But it would be the baby steps of, as I say, understanding what is taking place, how we've come around, etc., etc. So now, as adults, we are learning. This is how it really goes on. So we must. There's an aspect of the information that's being simplified enough that we can understand it, but we also have to put the work in, to raise our level, also to understand what's going on. So we have to put work in as well to understand what's going on. Remember, your ancestors, your etheric ancestors, the Panatharu, will not come down below the mental plane, so which is at 4. So you go physical plane, plane of force, spiritual plane, and then 4 is mental. So they're not coming down below 4. So you want to meet them, then you must raise your whole vibration to meet them at the 4th plane of existence. They've birthed one of them who has come into this world, having to be born by way of a woman, overstood, and look at all the drama that happens when you try and teach black people how to ascend. You understand? Look at all the leaders, certainly for the past 100, 150 years. And it's not ended well. It doesn't end well when you're teaching us anyway, because we're hard-headed people. We've got the ego of a deity, but not necessarily the power to back it up yet. You understand? So in that regard, so very hard of hearing, very dense. So I was using that term the other day. And we need to become much, you understand? Or less dense, let's say, to be able to be more malleable, but in a way so that we can work together, understood, without all of the kind of hate and anti-unity that's in our genes from mixing with other races that constantly kind of obviously works and interrupts our development, understand, in that regard. So this is where we were at the last time. So I think we were going through, but we were going through this, Marcy, we've gone through it a number of times, but as I say, it was important just to have a bit of a recap. And I think we were touching upon some of these points here. Again, just showing you about, different ways in which we see the world. And trying to I think it's really make the point about the sort of illusion that the world is made up of sort of different layers, and and our ability to walk back within those layers within our mind. They're almost like alchemy within ourselves, to be able to see things the way, I won't say they should be seen, but we need to see them differently, you understand? So and be able to walk back in that journey above these various different planes and vibrational levels of ether, to understand what is going on, what is making up existence, and almost to some degree unlearn what we have learned in that regard, you understand? So that our journey is into the darkness. So unfortunately, somebody wanted to play a game with the words and make darkness appear evil, but what he says is evil, and what you understand, is generally is likely to be good to us, and what is good to them is likely to be evil to us. Do you understand? If you're using those terminology, they're subject, they don't exist as absolutes within reality. Do you understand? So it's no absolute evil, absolute good. They just don't. It's from perspectives. Understood? So in that regard, excuse me, you can't trust all of that information source unless it's based around things that are particularly factual, certain things in maths, for example, and some things in science. That's what it is. But when it comes to subjectivity, then you're going to have a problem if you're relying on their understanding of stuff, because it's framed to optimize them. It's not framed to optimize you. Understand? So when somebody comes along who says, well, this is my purpose, is to help you all, then you'd probably be foolish to not pay attention. Do you understand? So here, so we were going through some of those elements, or re-going through some of this. So I'm not going to go back through it over again, because I think we covered it the last time, just to see where we finished. Okay, so we were going into ether, and that's where my focus is going to be today. Just to go back over ether again. So we're jumping in a little bit of holy tablets. So the language, just to forewarn, the language, obviously, this is, what's holy tablets now? 1996. So it's almost 27 years ago, isn't it? Yep. In that regard, or more than 27 years ago. So some of the terminology is because at that time, holy tablets is a bridge between religion and reality. We've gone through the major monotheistic religions from that research, you understand, because you then find out, Genesis, about a sheaf to remake, reconstruct, that can't be the very beginning. It says in the beginning, God did this. It doesn't say at the very beginning of things, you understand? So the earth was already here, so on and so forth. We know that Genesis 4:24 to 28 should really be before Genesis 1:1. So all these different things, you understand, even in their own language, they're not saying it's the very beginning. excuse me, and the word God there being used as Elohim. Yeah, so in the beginning, well, Elohim is three or more. Yeah, the I am or the Yod in the middle at the end is three or more. You understand? So Elohim is two, dual, and Elo is singular. So you're only introduced to the let's say what you might call the angels or whatever as God. You're not introduced to the source. Not until you get to Genesis chapter 12. So the point is that Genesis chapter 14, verse 12. So the point being made is that's not the beginning. So that walked us on a certain journey. Then you find out, hey, Alexander Heidel, for example, and others who translated the Gilgamesh epics, the New Release, you find out these different books. Hey, they got a flood story. They got a creation story. Different. This seems similar to the one that we're reading in this Bible, but there's more detail in there. Understood? The animals went in 2 by 2. When you learn it in the Bible, you're thinking, okay, well, 2 by 2 of every animal. How did they manage to do that? Never explained. You understand? Only drawings. Some show the ark as a big, massive, rectangular box. You understand? They have all these animals in there. You get these drawings of giraffes and lions, etc., etc. Spend all this time. Well, who was cleaning up all the? How did they eat? Who was cleaning up all the feces? You understand? So they didn't die from diseases or whatever whilst they were on this particular ark. How did you stop a lion from not trying to attack? You understand? Some bison or whatever other things that they eat, which are on the things. How did you manage predators versus, you understand, non-predators? How did you feed the animals that were, ate vegetables or whatever? Because you can't grow vegetables, particularly it's difficult to grow vegetables on a ship. You understand? So all these different things, was dumbing down your mind, but you just accepted it. Oh well, the animals went on 2 by 2. Okay. Fair enough. So never explained to today. Oh, well, now it's not important. That's Old Testament. Well, hold on a minute. Do you see what I'm saying? This is the source of your New Testament stuff. This is a source of your Quranic chapter. So make it make sense. Is it fair, like in 2023? Should it, make sense in 2023? Yeah, did your deity not have the intelligence enough to bridge time so that it would be relevant to the minds back then and relevant to today? Or you should have been sent a new book explaining it for the mindset of the day and time that we're in. Yeah, make it make sense, because it's still of a 400-500 year, 600 year when they translated it. That's the mentality. So it doesn't make sense. But when you get to Sumerian aspect to the story, they used they took the cells from the animals, do you understand, so they could be whatever recloned and reintroduced or regrown back into the atmosphere or back into the environment. So okay, maybe that makes a bit more sense. I'm not saying the story's true, I'm saying it makes a bit more sense. Okay, we're going to get the genes of the animals, the cells, and put them in test tubes or whatever. But again, you see, that's a monumental effort. But obviously, clearly, they only intended to kill off the land-based creatures, not the ones in the sea. Understood? So that probably reduces it down, but it still would be a monumental effort, understood, by this fairly simple group of people, allegedly, of Utnapishtim. So how did they gather all these things? You understand? Did they have syringes? How did they get the cells out from the people, and how were they then able to recognize them and qualify them and put them in categories? Do you understand? So you knew exactly, what species need to be categorized, how they need to be reintroduced back into the environment. Do you just place cells in the water and that's going to regrow into a giraffe? It's taken it's taken trillions of years of development and growth to get to the point where you go from a single cell to a giraffe. You understand? Unless you're recloning, obviously, those life forms, etc., in that environment. So there's a lot of details missing, understood, for how things were supposed to work. Nonetheless, this was taking us on a particular journey and walking us back, as I say, to the reality of where all these stories came from in ancient Egypt. So around that time, we were still in the Sumerian school and Sumerian understanding of what was going on, and so therefore certain terminology in this book is going to reflect that. So bear that in mind, as opposed to creating or translating what you think is God into, it's Anu now or whatever. I'm going to use the word Ray when it says Anu, just for understanding and keep it up to date. Yeah. Okay. So long-winded wait. Let's get cracking on. So I'm not going to cover this subconscious things. I've done it before. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit because So we just touched upon earlier, and I'm not going to go into too much, but here you see in verse about the plane of the physical plane. Plane of force is the sort of second level up. And so really we're looking at, so mental's at 4, spiritual, which is a duplication, of the physical. So for every physical atom, there would be a spiritual atom. And then plane of force is basically where it's like the vitality within things. So it's like where the weather's controlled from, for example. So you're dealing with this lower level. You're dealing with the energy or the vitality that I suppose helps to power things that take place on the physical plane. So if you are thinking about, I don't know, a building, for example, in your mind, the building is whole, isn't it? You can, let's say your perfect house or whatever, your dream house. You've constructed your dream house in your mind. So the rules in the mental do not work in the same way as the rules of the physical. Meaning to say, you do not have to destroy in order to build. So in the physical plane, you must destroy something in order to do this. If you want a wooden table, for example, you've got to destroy a tree. Destroy, I mean change its form or composition. You understand? In order to build what you want it to then be. You understand? So you must destroy it in order to build or create or grow things, so to speak. Which is not the same as when you think about it in your mind. In your mind, you think about the dream house. The dream house, from the materials that are in your mind, so the particles that are going to shape those thoughts, you can construct the real house, and in your mind at least it is real. So it's still physical in the sense of it's made up of material. You understand? Now, is it material like dense matter that we understand in the physical? No, it's less dense, but it's still material. You understand? And you constructed that in your mind, but you didn't have to destroy something in order to do that. So if you think about it, in order to bring that idea into the physical, it goes through certain stages, isn't it? So the spiritual is effectively what? The blueprint. Understand? So you have a blueprint which you need to give to the builder, understood, in order to build and develop. Take your ideas which are in your mind, which nobody else can see, it's in your mind, yes, and then you have to take that and put it into a form that can be communicated to somebody else. So the design or the outline of what the house is supposed to be now is in a blueprint. So it's in a slightly different format, but it's in a plan that others can follow. Understood? Yeah. And then plane of force. Well, okay, what do we need? We need money. Yeah. We need a workforce. We need skilled labor in order then to, you understand, do the physical labor to do the house. If you ain't got no money, yeah, then you're relying on what? Favors or whatever the case may be. But you need some mechanism. Yeah, so even favors are force. Yeah, can you do me a favor? Yeah, that's a force, isn't it? To get somebody then to get resources to work on your behalf. Understood? Some others have used violence. Understood? Yeah, to get others to work on their behalf. Nonetheless, in order to get some resources moved in a particular coordinated way, you have to have energy. That's plane of force. Then, obviously, on the physical now, we bring all those things together: mind, plan, force, i.e. money, whatever the case may be, that maintains that force in this particular instance, and the resources, bring them in coordination. Now we're rebuilding what we built in our mind. Yeah, so that comes to fruition in the physical, or manifests itself into the physical. So understand how all these different things sort of interconnect with each other is sort of what's being expressed in very great detail in the Holy Tablets, which we're just covering over some elements within that, where we're focusing on the ether. So ether, for the purposes of our understanding here, so we taught you about the difference between energy and matter, and one of the terms in this particular book, which I think is also very helpful and useful, when so the Master here is informing us in this Master Secret that this something, here is being categorized as material physical matter. Understood? Now, when we talk about energy, or the smallest particles in energy, which is being referred to as dark matter, dark energy, or some refer to it as the black dot, or brain etheric seeds here, we see the word is changed. So it's got energy matter or matter energy. Understood? So because what it is, it's still particles. It's still a form of physical because it's particles. You understand? But it's not physical in the same way as describing something. This is because the crossover point is considered to be between something and nothing, or nothing, is the point of hydrogen. Do you understand? And the 99 elements that make up the physical. But the 99 elements that make up the physical have corresponding etheric elements, which the Holy Tablets, it was classified as E1, E2, E3, you understand, all the way down to E99. Do you understand? And then you cross over from 9, isn't it, into 10, 1 and 0, it symbolizes basically a new dimension, because you're basically going over the same thing again, isn't it? So there's only the real numbers are 1 to 9, so to speak, and then when you get to 10, from the numerology point of view, you're stepping into or you're giving birth then to a new dimension, because you then go 11, and the same, you go 1 and 1, 1 and 2, 1 and 3. So the 1 symbolizes the new environment, do you understand? And then the same thing's happening or replicating itself over again, in a more dense state if you're going one way, or if you put a minus against it, a less dense state. So the point is that you've got this matter, understood, so material physical matter, because material is often used in this context as the journey towards it becoming matter. So we sometimes talk in terms of the dark side of the energy, or the part maybe can't be seen by the physical eye, as material in the sense, and its end point is it becomes matter. But in the context here, it's switched over, so it can be material or energy matter. So matter first, energy first, and then which gave birth to matter. But because you're using materials on the dark side, then it's still matter, it's still particles. Understood? They exist, but they don't have an atomic weight by modern day instrumentation. I've said it so many times in this class before, I feel like I'm repeating myself. But if you stand on a scale, set scales in a bathroom, understood? Yes, the scales are going to move. So if they set it at 0, you step on the scales, they're going to move, you understand? And they're going to be such and such weight, understood? Or stone, or kilograms, understood? But if you put a feather on those same scales, is the feather going to move the scales? Yes or no? The answer is no, isn't it? The feather, it doesn't have enough weight to match the sensitivity of that particular, the bathroom scales or whatever. So therefore, it won't move. Now, if we were just judging it based on looking at the dial on the bathroom scales, we would say, well, it doesn't exist, isn't it? There's no weight. It's not registering. Understood? If we couldn't see it. Yeah, but because we can see it, we know it does exist. So the feather does exist. And so the things that are, if we were only measuring what's real or what exists by that, you know what I mean, which can trigger the movement on the bathroom scales, we would be ignoring, you understand, a whole aspect of existence. You understand? Because there are many things that will not trigger a bathroom scale to move. So this is because, as I say, so you've got this seemingly hard line, which is what's represented. If you look at a percentage sign, yes, this is what that's showing you. Yeah, the percentage sign is showing you, as the master teacher was explained to us, the symbol of the percentage sign is showing this difference between energy into matter, or the separation between the two. And it's a percent, isn't it? Yeah, it's a part of the whole. Understand? So percent, because as I say, poor understanding and bad information led to people believing that, hey, hydrogen is the first point of existence, yeah, until they, as I say, smashed those atoms together and found that they made up of smaller particles, yeah, which they refer to as quantum energy. And that quantum energy still takes you back to our stuff, you understand? Because the quantum is that atum, atun, amun, and anun. Yeah, quantum. Yeah, it still takes you back to our stuff. You can't get away. The 6 cannot escape the 9. Yeah, this cannot escape the 9. Yeah, so, but only, yeah, a master teacher or somebody who knows can express that, or tell you that they're, you know what I mean, has the power, as I say, to explain or match or merge past, present, and future into now. You understand? So, and that's not the same. A master teacher is not the same as somebody who has a master's. Let's talk about that for a second, because when you go to their university, you understand, nothing wrong with that. Develop your professional skills or whatever. You go from this, you hold a degree, say a bachelor's degree, for example, and then you take a master's. Yeah, this is the next stage. I don't know if it's the same place all around the world. I'm assuming for the sake of this it is. If it's different, then happy to be corrected. Now, so you do a degree and then into a master's, but listen to the terminology. Yeah, you hold a master's. Yeah, you hold a master's. Are you a master of the subject that you take? You hold it. It's not the same as being a master, as holding a master's. Do you understand? Because what do you collect through when you're going through this university? You are collecting qualifications. What's the purpose of a qualification? If you're in a race, you're in a 100 meters race in the Olympics, and you're in round 1, yeah, and they say, okay, in order to qualify for the next round, you must finish in the top 3 positions, first, second, or third. So you run the race, you get into position number 1. What happens? You qualify for the next round. Understood? Yeah. So when someone say that qualification, the qualification is opening a door for you to then do the next thing. Then when you get next qualification, it's opening a door for a next thing. So it's opening a door. It doesn't mean I'm not saying it doesn't mean you don't have knowledge. It doesn't mean you don't have the thing. But when you hold a master's, are you a master of that subject? Or have you satisfied the necessary criteria to go to the next level of qualification, i.e. a doctorate? Do you understand? And when you pass that now, okay, well, you've qualified to now do the next level. Do you understand? And so when they want you to do a certain job, they're looking for certain qualifications to let you in through the door, i.e. the application process, to now be, you know what I mean, to sit in the particular job. But have you mastered the subject? You know, so their system is not the... So the point I'm making that as well is to say this, is because certain people say, okay, well, they're looking at the institution as the institution being the fact that, well, if the knowledge comes from there, it must be right. Because the institution, you understand, the Joe Rogan type mentality. Well, if the person's a doctor and they've studied at that particular university, that degree, what they're saying must, you know what I mean, is likely to be correct Versus if you say the same thing and you haven't gone through that, then your word don't mean anything. Now, that may well be the case, but the problem is that what they try to say now is, well, European stuff then is valid, and if the same thing is in Africa, then it's not valid. Yeah, because it's not come through one of the sources that we agree is valid. You know, the authority, authentic. If you don't have enough authors, you don't determine the authority. You don't decide what is or what isn't real, i.e. authentic. That's crazy. You understand? When you wasn't around when all this stuff was taking place, when you acknowledge that your philosophers who have built the foundation of your knowledge within this society, certain understanding, they were students under the ancient Egyptians. Yeah, and have then become student teachers for Greeks and Romans and so on and so forth. Now in the modern era have become student teachers for the world. They were student teachers. They were not masters. Let's have it right. Herodotus, Plato, these people, they were student teachers, which they acknowledge. But in this society, they focus on the light and ignore the darkness. So we're not even going to go in the modern era to tell you what came before that. So we're going to just start from this point and pretend that nothing else took place before. Pretend to the world nothing else took place before, on the hope that people would forget. But the problem is, you've got an Iraq, isn't it, where there's monuments and things that don't fit within your story of explanation. You've got ancient Egypt there, which you try to demonize in your Bible with your fake stories, because Egypt is in Africa. So you're demonizing Africans and plant that into the seeds of the people so that they won't go and look into, you know what I mean, what Egypt has to say. They're pagans. You're saying that's devil stuff, etc., etc. And how many people will halt their journey of even going back? They'll look at it from an arm's length point of view. This is a great tourism spot or whatever. They're not seeing themselves as the actual people who built those structures. You understand? So this is the game that gets played, and this is why sensitively, yeah, it takes a lot. Respect due to the master teacher, not even a thing of respect due, because you got to figure it out. How people's just been the amount of damage. This is what people, when Jews are crying, I'm not even against Jews like that, but when they're crying about Holocaust and this type of thing and those types of situations or whatever, yes, we acknowledge terrible. But Jewish media companies, Metro Goldwyn and Mayer, have destroyed blacks with the negative information, the humiliation that was done through the media, the cinema, television programs, etc. Yeah, in England today, for example, the BBC, you couldn't even think about probably a more, I won't say perfect, but a system. If everybody pays towards it, yeah, you have a TV line, everybody pays towards it. You couldn't think of probably a better system to be anti-racism or anti-inequality, whatever the case may be. You couldn't think of a better system. Everybody pays. There's no commercial drivers to what appears on the screen. And yet still, the damage that, you understand, certain institutions like that have caused on the black psyche. Listen, you'll have a fictional program. There's a fictional program. A person kicks a dog in this fictional program. So the dog wasn't actually kicked. The illusion of the television makes it appear that way in the program. They're going to put a message on the screen after the program's finished. If you've been affected by these issues in this program because a dog was kicked, call this number. Understood? Yes? But what about the psychological damage of showing a people continuously in negative circumstances? That doesn't have psychological damage. If kicking a dog in a fictional program has damage to people who care about dogs, then if a people are continually shown mistreated, continually killed on screen early, like it don't matter, you understand, sacrificing themselves, continue humiliating on screen, that doesn't have psychological damage. You understand? When you get stopped by police, so i.e. you're accused of, so you're legal, you're not a career criminal, you get stopped by police for something that you haven't done, Did you ever receive a leaflet that said to you, hey, we recognize the psychological damage of people being accused of something they haven't done. If you've been affected by this police stop, we can see you haven't done anything wrong. Please phone this number. Is that what happens in the Western Hemisphere? Is that what happens anywhere around the world? Yeah, do you get a leaflet to call a number to say, yes, I've been affected by this police, I was wrongly accused, but let you falsely accuse something of somebody that they haven't done? But they're going to rail up, they get mad. All human beings, irrespective of race, you accuse them of something they haven't done, people get mad. Yeah, they want explanations, they want answers. But you get stopped now. Do you get any leaflet? You get any, you understand? Respite or solution or counselling? I'm just saying. You understand? So the problem is to unravel all this mess now. Yeah. Either you're ignorant and you're coming towards this and you can, you know, put the work in and absorb what needs to be done. But if you've had stuff that's already been taught to you, then you're gonna have to unravel it. You understand? But there's forces inside of you that say, well, listen, a black man can't teach another black man or black woman what they need to know, because our leadership in that skin color is not respected. And in the society, remember, they ignore the source. Yeah, so you look up at the blackness of space, understood? Yeah, where everything comes out of, it's largely ignored. You're interested in the stuff within it, not the bits without. Yeah, you're not interested in the background. You're not interested in the backdrop. You're not interested in the canvas. Yeah, but in order to know, we have to teach you. Whoa. Let's change that mentality. We absolutely need to be interested in the backdrop. We absolutely need to be interested in the canvas and how the canvas was created and what makes up. We absolutely need to be in the blackness of space, because that's you. Understood? That is you. So we can't be ignorant of those things. And what's happening now is that we've been given certain principles how to apply and determine facts and not facts. And we basically are transforming into a people that love gossip. You understand? If we hear something, we're not doing the necessary things around discernment. Certain things that were done to us, we're imparting the same poor judgment on other people. Understood? Yeah, based on rumor and conjecture, particularly by way of this modern media today, where you can be accused of something, and as I say, depending on what the crime is, will determine on whether they feel you're guilty or not guilty. Which is a dangerous way, as I say, to deliver justice. But we just had this whole Me Too movement where the whole media was being held to account for setting their own rules within their industry, and now going through all of that situation, now they do the same thing in the same way. I say you're falsely accused in the media, and then your right of reply or your right to justice is, but your presumption of innocence basically is destroyed if it goes into the media. Yeah, we've always been, let's say we as black people, it's always been a society of guilty. Yeah, proving yourself innocent. Never been innocent proving yourself guilty. It's always been guilty because of the media and what was perpetrated through those channels, through those TV, through TV, cinema, etc. The stereotypes, all these things, programming the minds of, arguably sometimes innocent individuals, and now you're fighting against that in everyday society. You understand? And so one person does, everybody gets the blame. Yeah. But when one of them does, no, everybody doesn't get the blame, just the individual. Do you understand? Now, in a positive way, one is this, for us. If we're looking at it from a spiritual point of view, yes, one is the same as the whole, and whole can be one. This is a power in our thing, but not from the way the media is using it, but obviously the reality of how we move and transfer energy around this environment. You understand? So this is the thing that you have to, this is what they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know about Egypt. They don't want you to know about actual facts. They don't want you to know about the master's secrets. They don't want you to know about Freemasonry for male and females. You understand? Because these are the things where it's leading to the real secrets, not from their end, but from our end, the real secrets to true power. You understand? Yeah, to correct and change the environment, change our circumstances. You understand? Change the fate, take control of, replace faith, and take control of the fate of our people once again. Now, back to what we were talking about. So we've got these. This here, what makes up what's being called matter, and then we had a similar list. Excuse me. Let me go back. Let me go forward. Then we have a similar list for what makes up what is being classed as energy. You understand? So in this regard, so we've got absolute matter. You understand? And then we've got, excuse me, we've got vacuum, absolute matter, and absolute vacuum coming into sync with each other. But in order for energy to transfer from one place or state to another, you need a mechanism to do that, and that mechanism is referred to as ether. Understand? Or one of its characteristics. Yeah, to allow energy transfer one, but you're going to learn even further now that ether doesn't just transfer energy. Understood? It, in certain instances, can build. Is it the mechanism? Obviously, for where the energy is going to be transferred into. Yeah, so it's not just a transferer. It can also build structures to allow itself to be transferred, or sort of to allow energy as itself to be transferred from one place to another. Yeah, so it's very significant, as I say, characteristic of what this thing is. So let's go into different types. This is really what we were talking about today. A long way of getting there. So let's start with ultra gaseous matter ether. Yeah, so and so this is a way in the physical plane. Yeah, we're going to see what this ultra gaseous matter ether does. I'm going to read it. It's not super clear on the screen, but I'm going to read it. So, sorry, any questions before I go into that?
Sorry, there are no questions.
Okay. So, ultra gaseous matter ether 264. The ultra gaseous matter ether 265 is the most dense. Yeah, most dense. Yeah, so we're on the physical plane. 266, and the lowest of all the four ethers of the physical plane. 267. Ultra gaseous matter ether 268 is the channel for all the physical forces which you are familiar with. So remember, what did we say? Yeah, the ability to transfer energy from one place to another. You need a mechanism, like you've got wires, understood, connecting physical things. Well, obviously now we're in that age where you're connecting things wirelessly. You understand? So this is based upon nature. It doesn't just magically come along that you've got all this wireless technology. It's all based upon high technology within natural nature. From natural nature to be within nature. Which you are familiar with, like heat, 269 heat, 270 sound, 271 light, 272 motion, 273 ultraviolet rays, 274 cosmic rays, 275. This ether subplane of the physical, 276, manifests aspects which operate in human beings under the direction of his conscious mind, 277, within the physical form, 278. The ultra gaseous matter known as ether is operating under the law of attraction. Understand? 279, and it draws the physical form 280 from the needed elements in the surrounding space. Yeah, so here we're seeing that effectively you have operations that work under your conscious mind, where you've got conscious control of. So you've got, for example, aspects of your breathing that you've got conscious control of. You understand? It's driving energy within the body. You can, for example, partake of food, for example. That's under your conscious mind, but let's say the process within it, the processes within the body, which drive are under the conscious control. So only you eat a sandwich or you drink a drink or whatever, it triggers then a number of processes that follow along from the initial conscious decision to partake of food, for example. You understand? And so that's a conscious decision. Other things now work subconsciously, understood, and are driven by the subconscious mind. So there's a bit of a separation between the two. Both of them trigger internal processes which drive or require these energies now to act or move to fulfill a particular purpose. So here, within this environment, there are natural laws that kick in as an approach. Now, what this is saying as well is that basically this ultra gaseous matter, and it draws the physical form. Do you understand? So two things. One, creating the physical form, understood, but also allows or the allowance of energy or even to be drawn in to the physical form to be utilized, obviously, to power various processes. So 280. So 290. Let's go from 279 again. And it draws the physical form 280 from the needed elements in the surrounding environment. So we're made up, remember, of bacteria. The physical form, at least, is made up of the bacteria in the environment. And as you are already familiar with, most of you, is that one of the reasons why women get nasal issues during pregnancy is because she is inhaling, you understand, 70% of dust in the atmosphere, for example, is dead skin cells. She's inhaling those through the original pyramid, which is the nose, and she recycles basically dead human flesh and uses part of it to build the flesh around the baby, do you understand, or the fetus or whatever. So the energy being is being basically, she is exhibiting what we're reading here, you understand? So she's drawing in from the physical space and then builds the structure, understood, of the baby within her womb. Do you understand? Around the energy being. Obviously that was facilitated through the conception. You understand? So you're building now these layers things. So this is what ether, the ultra gaseous matter ether, is able to do. Constructing form, but now we have to draw things in to build the form. You understand? It's not nothing from, well, as they understand, nothing to be from nothing. You understand? You must build with the material here. Now, if you think about, if you look at how a universe is formulated, how solar systems and galaxies are formulated, it's reusing materials from previously exploded stars. And if we've got time, we'll get into that a little bit later. So this is what we're trying to explain to you, or what's been the purpose of the proof, is to show about remember the original proof verse about the jigsaw puzzle. You understand how putting pieces of jigsaw puzzle. The jigsaw puzzle is unity. What we're showing you is this correlation that starts basically these characteristics in ether is the reason. Yes, listen to what I'm saying. Is the reason why you're seeing in the physical a being that manifests in those characteristics, obviously in the female, or all human beings, but in the female, you're seeing this drawing in. So we're manifesting, or we're expressing, let's say, that which came before in that energy state, or the characteristics of these ether states. So and from it, so 279, and it draws from the physical form 280 from the needed elements in the surrounding space 281. And it makes them absorb to be utilized in the physical form 282. The ultra gaseous matter ether 283, under the law of repulsion 284, expels from the physical form 285 all the materials that are no longer useful to its maintenance 286. This is all accomplished under the direction of the subconscious mind. So let's say you eat a piece of food. Yes, that's a conscious decision, correct? And then effectively all of the processes, in the same, you trigger a number of different processes. Of course, in this context, you're talking about digestion, you understand? So you want to retain the nutritional elements of what you've taken in, and then the stuff that is useless, do you understand, waste products, as we would refer to as, that needs to be expelled from the body. Now, the issue for us is that if you're not taught correctly, or we wasn't informed, then what can happen is that we're not doing these things at the right time, at the optimal time, let me say that, the optimal time to make it, to enable the body to use less energy. Understood? And what do we mean by that? Well, there are certain times of the day where much larger entities than us, like the planet, for example, you understand? Yeah, solar system, even the universe. Understood? Now, in this context, obviously, eating food is more of a planetary thing that we need to align to, because there are things happening that will assist the absorption process and will assist the elimination process. But and animals, for example, generally speaking, because of the way their mind is programmed on a certain point of the mental reservoir, certain times they will do things naturally in sync with the planet, for example, and nature. They'll do things in sync with the appropriate time because they don't have a choice in that way, or they don't have will in that regard, in the way in which human beings have it, to go against, you understand, the natural process of things. If they are, certain process will kick in to eliminate that. So us having that will or choice or whatever, now Mile must make a decision to realign ourselves with some of these natural processes that basically the process is going to happen regardless, but we can make it easier for ourselves if we go with what nature is doing versus going against. Do you understand? So what do we mean by that? So if you look here, for example, this is an extract from HDM Guide to Better Living, Purity and Neatness, I think as it was called in the previous Islamic school, and then it was redone in this school. But you can see here the body goes through what? 3 regular daily cycles. So we go through appropriation, eating and absorption. We go through assimilation, absorption or use, and then we go through assimilation. So these processes, understood, are split up into 3 cycles of 8, aren't they, broadly? If my maths is correct. 3 8s, you understand, for the 24-hour cycle. Do you understand? So heavy food eating, understood, would be from noon to 8. Yeah, so within that period, for optimal taking in of food and then going through the proper digestion process. Understood? Yeah, but what do? We sort of have breakfast, breaking the fast at much earlier time in this society. You know, get yourself some milk, cereal, blah, 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 blah. Understood? And so you're putting your body under pressure because you're putting the food there in the elimination cycle, not in the appropriation cycle. So for your body to work, or which is sync with natural cycles, your circadian rhythm, as they refer to it as, you've got an optimum time to eat, and the planet and the earth will help you do that. So again, if you drink water, do necessary things in the right schedule, the tides of the planet are causing, or pull, how tides are called, I should say, is caused by the waters of the moon, which was once part of the planet, and the sun doesn't have water anymore, but the energy of it, you understand, is what? Pulling on the waters of the planet, because the nature of water is that water must find other water. It's always seeking out other water, or to be joined with other water. So those energies are still there. Remember, what did we read about against the plane of force? The plane of force is dominated, yes, by the law of what? Dominated by the law of attraction. Understood? So so designers who know these laws and know how to use these systems can position things to work in sync with each other, as part of formulating a system, to sustain and propagate life. Understand? So in this context, let's say you drink the appropriate amount of water at the right time, for example, then what can it do? It can aid these processes, because if, for example, when your body is ready to release this stuff, it's then in sync with this pulling of the water in the moon. It's pulling on the waters in you as well. So you can help the elimination process by doing things at the right time. You understand? Having the right things in your body to facilitate the absorption. Excuse me. You taking in food, then processing it, i.e. assimilation, and then expelling what's not needed outside of the body. Do you understand? So it's the equivalent of, yeah, if you do it at the right time, I suppose if you had a jug full of water and you tip it, you understand, it's easier for the water to be poured out of the glass, or excuse me, the jug. If you tip it, pour it out, it helps the water to move out. Now, that's very different to having then to, if you had it flat and not tipped, to get the water out. It makes it harder, doesn't it? So if in a similar way, if we're doing things outside of the natural times, we make it harder for the body. We cause it to use more energy, more wear and tear than if we did it in line with the natural cycles that it's been designed to work within, to keep that correlation, as we talked about, with beings that, at least on the surface, are higher than you. When I say higher, they're on, less dense planes are informing more dense planes, isn't it? Do you understand? So the process is interconnected. Ignorance means that we just ignore all this, and so you just live your life, and your body will work around our bad decision making. Do you understand? But if we want to optimize ourselves, then now we know, then we've got the option of doing what inverted commas is called the right thing, but it's not right insofar as good in that context. It's right for us, or right for you, in terms of optimizing how you and how your body works, obviously within the cycles that are there to support you. Understood in that regard. So we can see there's a deliberate thing in this society to get you not to do that. You understand? And you say deliberate at least by people not knowing, or the fact that why is not the medical system, or why not in school and these types of things are you not taught this? You understand? Why are you not taught to be a proper human being? You understand? Or how a human being works in the context of how you live. So I've not been to school for a while, but when they do teach, sometimes they do teach information, or teach science or whatever, it's not in context of, what I mean, or framed around you as a human being. Do you understand? So this is what you must do, because they're afraid that basically, they were happy to teach one vibrational way of doing things when they are seemingly the vibration. But if you start splitting up and seeing what other different races do, different species of human being doing, then it becomes a problem. You understand? So because different people have different needs. But broadly, what you're seeing here is this absorption and assimilation process and elimination process is what we're reading about there, back in that Holy Tablets verse there. But you're seeing that the reason for it happening is down to ultra-gaseous, or the work of ultra-gaseous matter, ether, under the direction of what? Yeah, the mind. Yeah, so of subconscious and conscious. Now, let's look at life force ether. There's another different okay, so let's look and to see here. So just for a bit like there's engineers on the call, I suppose there's a correlation, I suppose, between sound and light. Yeah, and in a similar way, understood, and sometimes it's the way it's described, more so than the things being different. You understand? So there's something this week, and the person described and said, well, light is just a form of it's just another form of radio waves, or type of radio waves, which is an interesting way to describe it. Meaning to say, if you looked at all the different energies within the electromagnetic spectrum, well, light is just a form of, radio waves. That's how the person described it, which I thought was quite interesting. Now, this is showing you that basically you're looking at things from an energy point of view, and then the correlation again is looking at the thing obviously from the physical human body. Do you understand? So physiology or physiologically and chemically, understood, we're seeing that same pattern as we talked about earlier when we was explaining about the planes, understood? So i.e. spiritual, for every copy of the physical atom there's a spiritual atom. So you need to understand that so the blueprint, as they refer to it as, yes, and remember blue is the highest speed, isn't it, of light before you step into excuse me, the last point I should say of or the fastest speed of particles interpreted as light, yeah, before you step into the range that you can't see. And so red is the slowest in the visible spectrum, blue is the fastest in terms of particle movement under the physical spectrum, because then you go then into ultraviolet, so then beyond violet, beyond the blue range. So so there is a correlation, or that patterning that we explained to you before, that you've got this blueprint and you've got the physical based on the blueprint, understood? So the ultra gaseous matter, ether, knows how to build, you understand, or build or organize the matter, because there's already a, you understand, an energy, a design in energy, understood, which is there to be formulated, to be grown into. Do you understand? So and it's important to know, because which you're going to read about, what we're going to cover maybe later, but this idea of intelligent design, in the sense of divine design, intelligent design, or I think design of extraterrestrials or something like that. Well, it's kind of all of it, you understand, in that regard. Extraterrestrial or beings with higher technology, yeah, or your ancestors have the ability to have the highest technology, but it's expressed through nature. Do you understand? Because the word nature is from the word Natharu, you understand, or overseer or Natiru. Do you understand? So it's from that, or Natharu. It's from that word. That's where the English word nature comes from. So our technology is being expressed, you understand, or the highest one is being expressed through nature. And so you may have other, what you associate with technology, which is probably more physical things that you associate with technology outside of the body, but they're doing maybe a similar function or doing a similar thing, or based on a design within nature being expressed physically. So I don't know, you say like a mobile phone, for example, allows two people to communicate who are not in the same room as each other or far away from each other, can communicate on the planet pretty much. You understand? Great distances between them, understood, but that capability is within the human body, whether we're using it correctly or not at the moment, through the hypothalamus gland, for example. That has a physical aspect to it, but it also has an esoteric or spiritual purpose to it. So you have this double or dual purpose. And so when people, as us being who are both spiritual and physical, is also to say that yes, it has a physical function, but then what's its esoteric function? Do you understand? What's its secret power? Do you understand? Because it has a dual function as well. So you've got this correlation between spiritual and physical, but then you know what I mean? A certain gland will have a higher purpose to it, or a higher function, which this is what we're talking about when we're developing our spiritual faculties, is being able to control at will, yes, those higher functions of our physiology. So we're not living solely on the dense part, we're becoming less dense to be able to control the elemental aspect of us, i.e. the spiritual aspect. Understood? Any questions?
There are no questions.
Okay, so let's get into the liquid ether, yeah, which we have covered before, but we're going over this again. So, excuse me. Yeah, liquid ether, and touch on that. Okay, so Tablet 4, chapter 1 says, "Lo, the ultra gaseous matter ether the ultra gaseous matter ether in the physical form. 2 is associated with the solids of the body, such as the structure of the body, we just read about. 4, the life force ether, which is etheric form. 5 is involved in the fluids of the body, called liquid ether." So this is why it's called liquid ether. This is carrying, or it's the mechanism for carrying this life force. Understand? And so 6, such as the bloodstream. 7, such as the excretions of the ovaries and the testes. 8, the spirit is in the blood. The blood is liquid. 9, the spirit acts as a spark that ignites the life in the blood. 10, the life produces a light which appears as an auratic shell. So basically, remember so these sparks, at least on the physical side, how do we gather those? Well, you're breathing, aren't you? So there's a book called The Breath. Actual fact, redone as The Breath. Useful book to read, and obviously if you can't get the book, then we did a couple of classes on The Breath on the YouTube channel, so check those out if those are of interest. So in fact, you are breathing in, you understand, air, and air contains a number of different gaseous elements, but it also there's a vitality in the air that's also in there. You understand? Hindus, I think, refer to it as prana. You understand? And there are different names of this vitality that's in the air. So clearly, when we're able to process this form of air, or these sparks, as different names in different cultures. Understood? And we get into what it is in Wu-Sabat in a second. So not in a second, in a further touch point. Understood? So you've got 2 elements which are igniting, or what we're igniting. We've got oxygen in our blood, you understand? And we've got this other vitality, understood, which is in the blood. Now, the blood starts off basically as seemingly as colorless, or seemingly colorless, and then obviously when it becomes oxygenated, it turns red. You understand? And I'm simplifying the way I'm explaining it. Turns red. Now, as it goes through the body, it starts to pick up waste products from different parts of the body, and that red color turns into a kind of, you understand, a more, the blood starts off blue. Let me get that right. The blood starts off blue. When it becomes oxygenated, understood, it turns red. So in its original color, it is blue. Then, when it becomes oxygenated, it turns red. And as it goes through the body, it basically picks up all the waste products, and it then kind of turns into this kind of murky sort of reddish, browny type of color. Understood? And then what happens is it passes through the lungs, and a chemical ignition takes place. Understood? And so that chemical ignition is the reason for why it ignites basically and creates obviously these gases. That's one of the reasons why your body, when you breathe on your hand or whatever, you feel heat. So it's generating, you understand? So we've got our solar plexus, but an ignition takes place within our lungs as well, which also produces this kind of fire, you understand? Ignites it. All this being powered really by the breath and obviously blood flow, of blood pumping by the heart. This is why if you look at blood under a microscope, the people who tend to have the cleanest blood, as long as they're living fairly decent, are athletes, because of the anaerobic process taking place. You're breathing in, at high intensity, and then breathing out if they're breathing correctly. You understand? So in through the nose, out through the mouth. The process of this kind of blue-red journey, do you understand, throughout the body, is a process in the way in which the waste products within the blood basically get burned away, and then the blood basically recycles and renews itself. So that's how you clean blood, through the breath. Understood? So this igniting of the blood through the process, you understand, now that burning process, as well as your internal sun, creates an atmosphere outside of you that can be picked up by a Kirlian camera. Do you understand? So a Kirlian photograph by a Kirlian camera can pick up your auratic shell because of this burning, you understand, that's continually taking place, you understand, fired by the breath, but also this natural process of the ether being cleansed, you understand, as it ignites, or say, in the blood, ignites, in the lungs through this process. So the reason why in a boxing ring, you understand, you see it in many different things. Yes, so the blue and red as the opposites, understood, is because the visual light process, the visual light, or the top of it is blue, the lower end is red. Do you understand? And so your higher spiritual side is in the blue, and then the lower is in the red range of the visible range, but it also applies to the body. So it starts in this blue, into red, understand, back to blue. That's the cycle, you understand? And this is where a lot of this symbolism, as I say, whether it's a boxing ring or other things, where you see, even in the political parties, what do we see? We see Labour, red. What do we see? The Conservatives, blue. The same thing in America with the Democrats and the what's the other party? The Democrats and who else in there? Republicans. Yep. So look at the colours of the political parties. You understand? So it's this red and blue dynamic is based on the natural cycles that are taking place, critical to a human being's existence. You understand? Now, the interesting thing for us is that we are Ethereans insofar as, I suppose, we process all aspects. Processing all aspects of this. So both the spirit or spark, you understand, as well as the physical elements within the bloodstream. You understand? So there's a higher spiritual element, which obviously we process that as well. You understand? On both sides. So we have this physical structure, as we just said, expressed, and we have the spiritual or the etheric side of it, which generally speaking is being controlled on the etheric side by our subconscious mind. You understand? Where some of the conscious systems we can aid from the conscious side, like we just explained about proper breathing, understood, certainly, and why you need to indulge in some form of walking or physical activity on a daily basis as a human being to maintain good health, because as I say, proper or getting your breathing worked up basically cleanses your blood, through a natural process. And if you don't, then clearly, and how people were taught maybe before, others were taught breathe through their mouth, which is was considered bestiality for us as ancient Africans, and the same ancient Egyptians. That was considered bestiality because you're bringing the germs without it going through the natural filter, which is the nose. Now, interesting enough, when you look from verse 11, it says, it inhouses the soul, which is the light messenger. 12. This messenger transports information to the conscious and subconscious being. 13. The sparks of life trigger the mind that pulls itself from the mental reservoir of intellect. So, excuse me. We've been talking to you obviously about the soul and the fact that it is the mind or the mental or your aspect of the mental reservoir expressing itself, within this plane of existence, which you call the soul. So it's like projecting itself down. So when we're talking about Wu-Sabat and it being on a frequency, understood, this is what's part of what's being expressed here. Do you understand that we have this outformation informational flow into our being, connected with the mental reservoir being broadcast for our people. You understand? Because different races access different parts of the register. Understood? Only you access the part that takes us back to the very source, understand, not only of energy but mental itself, this mental reservoir. Understood? So others don't have it in the same way, or free access to it in the same way we do. And even then, as I say, we're on a certain frequency register, which basically is what separates one race from another. Do you understand? In terms of their connection. So if your seemingly link is then connected to somebody else's mind by living their culture, by living and imitating them, that is not natural nature for you. In fact, it's unnatural to do that. You understand? So we need to restore back. This is why a certain soul they can lose it, or it can be restored. Understood? Because it's making reference to the fact that this connection can be cut off by certain behaviors or how we live our life in the physical. Do you understand? So excuse me. It's important to understand all these processes are linked and interconnected in a functioning, healthy human being. Understand? Or in a function, healthy, supreme being, understand, in the form of us. This is what, understand, how things should be working. And as it goes on to explain, it's what renders you an etheric being. Yeah, the fact that you have these, understand, dual types of communication going through you, that's what renders you, because you are processing ether in a way that is separates you from other races. Do you understand? Hence why the Greeks referred to you as what? Where we were living, and we were living in line with natural nature. That's where the ether people were living in their utopian state. They're called Ethiopians. You understand? Because of our ability to process ether, which to them would simply be air. Understood? But you can see there's much more in the air. Vitality in the air, much more in the air than just oxygen. You understand? Nitrogen, so on and so forth. The gases that are on the periodic table, we're processing obviously ether in the form of these, which they're referring to as excuse me, these light sparks, which we're going to get into a little bit later, yeah, in respect of that. So it's saying here 14, which is governed by the oversoul that is connected by an etheric cord. Understood? All messages in light forms travel through the cords from the mental reservoir. So if you remember from last week, we showed you the diagram. Yeah, the higher aspect of the spiritual you, the ka'a, is the etheric cord being spoken about. Yeah, so you go back, showing that we do know what we're talking about, or you find evidence of it in the doctrine, I should say. That's a better way of describing it. Yeah, that all these actual facts and mental, master secrets are linked. Yeah, it's because, yeah, see here, your car that feeds your body from your mental reservoir into your single account mind. So again, something that was explained in the tablets being connected to something explained in the master secret, and you're seeing here that link to what we're talking about. Understood? So this separates an individual, or separates the Nagari from other races. Understood? And it's important that we maintain or restore at least that connection. Do you understand? So here we can see that in the recycled name for Africa, you understand, Afaf Reye Ka'a, understood? Yeah, as we talked about, I think last week in terms of these symbols, you've got the receiving. You've got the receiving symbol here. Yeah, so in the hands are in a position where they're receiving energy. Understood? We see the Reye or the sun. Understood? Which obviously is representing this spark, of course. And then we see the use here of I think it's a horned viper, you understand, with the word of Faf, which is basically from or of, in this regard. But that same symbol, again, is a transferring mechanism because you see it in the same symbol for Tefaf, Natat, or Tefnot in terms of mitochondrial DNA. Understand? So it's describing in both instances, that link, our link, or referred to as our soul. So we have soul seed, but also our soul link in this regard that keeps us connected. But as I say, you can be pushed out of alignment. You understand? So here, the ka'a in its higher self, remember, is the higher form of the nafas, understood, which is your personality. You understand? Self. So that's your personality. That is expressed. Your personality is expressed in your bloodstream, in your DNA and your RNA. You understand? So your DNA is what has your characteristics or your personality within there. The higher form of that, you understand, is your ka'a. You understand? So this is the ka'a is a higher form of the nafas, which is the self. Understood? And we see that the ka'a, the higher form of it, facilitates clearly the communication with the mental reservoir. And one of the aspects, the higher aspects of you that must be present in order for you to live past the point of the physical. So your ka'a, your achah, the etheric you, and then your ba'a, and so which is the higher aspect, the emotional you, but your soul, the higher aspects of your soul, which you need to, that triad you need past the point of death. You understand? So this is what we're talking about here. All lines up in terms of that sort of understanding. All of this, the importance of, say, being facilitated by these different types of ether. Well, I'm getting back to where I'm at. Any questions?
No questions.
Time. Okay, so all 15, all messages in light forms travel through the cords from the mental reservoir. 16, Etherians are the guardians of this reservoir of intellect called Akasha. 17, each being receives light messages in their DNAs and RNAs from and through these beings that are responsible for triggering each moment of thought and action in their existence. 18, so a harmonious flow of energy and life in the form of light messages must travel to the being, rendering each being's inner self etheric. You understand? So you're an Etherian by way of your ability to receive and send in the other direction these light messages. You understand? So one spiritual development would of course be us being able to control these higher aspects of self by the conscious mind, not just it being controlled by the subconscious mind. So we can control our physical decisions by our sort of conscious mind, but being able to control some of the spiritual powers and aspects to turn those off and on when needed in certain situations is also something that one would have to develop that control for also. Now, excuse me, so we've gone through ultra gaseous matter, ether, we've gone through liquid ether, you understand? So we'll touch upon a little bit about light ether and some a few others before we get back into what we were talking about in the proof. So, light ether, 303. So light ether is a tunnel from which the light from the plane of force penetrates and spreads and intermingles within the physical plane. 305. The light blinds human beings' emotional nature. 306. Which is to the emotional center in his physical form, which is located in the solar plexus. 307. Solar plexus is 6.5 to 7 inches above the navel or umbilical seat, as the crimson crown stands 6.5 to 7 inches high. That's to do with the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek. The uniform for that was a crown, and basically they showed them, I think, a lotus flower, or flower at the umbilical seat, basically, and it's saying that the symbolism of the crown in relation to that. 308. The emotional center superimposes the solar plexus area. 309. The lobe of the light ether is always perpetual. Excuse me, is always in a perpetual motion. So, so here is describing, as I say, the energy that sits in this particular location, and as I say, where your solar plexus is where you hold your physical central sun, understood, and where we have a secondary brain as well. So here, this is why it's called the emotional you, because what's emotional you? Well, emotional you is energy in motion. Do you understand? And so it's where the seat or heart seat, or where emotions are expressed from in this regard. So light ether in us is where this is, I suppose, centralized or more concentrated. Yeah. So mental ether, let's go into that. So 310, mental ether forms the bridge between the brain structure, the brain structure of the physical form and the mental body of the physical individual. So this is creating a link. And so we go further and read about, remember we talked about ether, we've seen a couple of examples of ether not only being the mechanism for allowing the transfer of energy, but also remember it's building the for lack of a better word, it's building the infrastructure to allow that transfer to happen as well. You understand? So I'm transferring, but I also got the ability to build or construct that infrastructure. And as we said earlier in the class, it's for the mind to express itself, obviously going forward from that original rules that are being set out of being, becoming, became. Understood? Yeah, from us or the world or environment or rules of things. Now, and us as a thing. And the mental body of the physical region. This 312, this mental ether is distributed through the brain centers, 313, and throughout the cerebral spinal nervous system, 314, which produces mental waves throughout the atmosphere, 315. It is by these mental waves that your thought processes function, 316, and it's because of this mental ether that thought forms are seen, 317. The true light reflecting your every thought, 318. The mental ether is a channel for the transmission of thoughts, 319. From one individual to another, 310. A form of telepathy, telepathite, 312. Which will become increasingly responsive in these last days. So this power will start to enhance itself, isn't it? As somebody says, listen, you're going to live long enough. I was just thinking about you and the person calls. Yeah, because the person's called you and you was thinking about them and then they phoned your phone. You understand? So this is these the endpoints or the nerve endings for where the original gland, the Bradbury gland, used to sit. Obviously, this is one of the higher senses that we would have access to should that Bradbury gland be replaced, but you've still got the nerve endings there, and so these characteristics or attributes still exist in human beings today. 322. In the physical form, the heart is a great center station of life's activity. 323. When the heart fails to pulsate, the body is dead. 324. The bloodstream carries the life throughout the channels of the body. 325. Being sent there, not alone. 326. But by the pumping action of the heart. 327. And also the law of magnetic attraction. Do you understand? So this is, of course, seeing that, hopefully your understanding is getting there now. Yeah, in order to transfer thoughts, you need mental ether. You understand? In order to transfer heat, light, understood. Yeah, these type of things. You need ultra gaseous matter ether. You understand? And so, but the power of ether is that ether will build is also the mechanism, but would also build the end position yeah, which it needs to transfer into, if necessary. Understood in that regard. This also is confirming to you that physical thoughts, are physical or as physical as a table or things that you're touching, which basically are more dense, and so you associate that with things that are real. Understood? And so you kind of have to detach that away from your thinking, and that mental thoughts are just as real as, just as physical in that context as physical things in the physical. This is why when you read in Hotep chapter 1, it says, well, there's a quarantine on the planet, because imagine, as I say, if you really had that true power, certain beings have the power that what they think mentally, isn't it, can manifest itself instantaneously by way of those rules of as above, so below. Yes, so the same thing happens for us. The problem is that the transference of as above, so below is not concentrated in the way it should be. So we should be able to manifest things a lot faster, but it takes longer, isn't it, in this society? And in some instances, if there's not enough there's not enough concentration of the power, you understand? So you need the power concentration in order for that journey to fulfill itself. You understand? Otherwise, it will not go through the proper transformation of what? Mental into the physical, you understand? Which is a natural law. So what these things are pointing out to us from, as I say, we talked a bit earlier about us we've been damaged mentally, understood, is that basically we've lost confidence. So we're not only ignorant of these abilities, but we've lost confidence to execute them. You understand? So the kind of spiritual, remember, it's not just day one that you click your fingers and these powers just kick into play. They have to be developed over time, like a skill, isn't it? Like a power, so on and so forth. But if you read the principles of what we're reading about, in actuality, there should be nothing that's beyond our abilities. So the question is, well, why are we still then in the same position that we find ourselves in? Do you understand? A lot of damage has been done to our confidence. A lot of damage has been done to give us the ability to be consistent with our approach. You understand? And so life in society, can keep you with bills and things of that nature. It affects one's ability to keep that concentration, in a sense, as well as obviously being in the right type of environments in order to develop these powers. Understood? So it's interesting, isn't it, that there's a war going on about who should have a homeland in that regard. But when we try to have a homeland, it seems that everybody else wants to be involved in stopping that from being the case. But you can see that your physical environment certainly has a massive impact on how your powers in this context are going to be able to develop themselves. So if you're in the wrong environment, I'm not saying you can't develop them, it's just going to be much more of a challenge for you to do so. Now, life force ether. So let's get into that for a bit. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, it seems to facilitate its on go slow today. Okay, so life force ether. Let's keep it moving then. So 287, the life force ether. The life force ether 288 is the source of vitality and life for all forms of the mental plane, and the mental plane is interwoven into the spiritual plane, which is interwoven into the plane of force, which is interwoven like a helix into the physical. 289, it is a manifestation of your reproductive organs. This is old terminology, you understand? Cadmon and the Kebu. Yeah, talking about human beings, yeah, but it's old terminology. 290, and all your seed after you. 291, it operates in the female part of you, Cadman, and 292, and in all her functions of reproduction. 293, and from the moment of conception of Nkebu from you. 294, you became man and woman. 295, and a reflection of a man, which is your real self, symbol of the Tubal Cain, simply Tubal Cain, son of Zillah, meaning in the shadow. Out of the shadows of ignorance do we build with bronze and iron. Understood? So those who are who have a Tubal Cain, you understand, and understand how to use it under the canopies of the blue sky, will understand what 295 is saying. 296, the life force ether attracts from elements around her. 297, that which enables the growth of the new body in her being. Not out as you did her. Not out as you did her. 298, not out as you did her, Cadman. So this is relating to the experiment that happened in the Sumerian doctrine, where the cells out of the rib of Cadman were taken out of that being, do you understand? And utilized to make the Watusi, which Cadman was from, and the Patahites to make their genes compatible with each other for the purpose of reproduction. Do you understand? So this is in their Bible. So they say, well, man was taken out of the rib. Excuse me, woman was taken out of the rib of man. No, this is not the case. The blood in this context was taken out, so that basically they were from two different tribes to make them compatible with each other. Do you understand? So 299 should be the mother of all living, the Nkebu. 300, the life force ether also manifests activity in producing semen in the male. 301, the spark of life. 302, be it male or female, it comes from your likeness to, in this case, obviously the saying Anunnaki, but in this case, the Natharu. So what gives us the ability of, so here it's saying that your ability to reproduce, in the sense, is what makes you like the deities. Now, in this context here, this spark of life, as you know, so the life force ether in this context is facilitating the ability of the transference of this spark of life, which is again the sperm that makes it, you understand, is the one that's holding this spark in a natural birthing process. Can't speak for that if it's done through a laboratory, etc., because the scientists today don't know which sperm has the spark. So remember, in the I think I've got a slide on this, but in the birthing process, remember the spark is what is representing the transference of the mental. So remember, within existence, you must have three things, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. It can't be separated. Time, matter, understood. Matter, time, and my brain's going today. Excuse me. Space, matter, and time. Yeah, space, matter, and time. Three things needed for existence today. Yeah, but remember what existed prior to that, isn't it? Is mind. Understood? And so mind, in a sense, within existence, those three, the three principles, space, matter, and time, are the three things you need for existence. Mind becomes time, or mind is expressing itself going forward as time. Understood? So that spark of life within a normal ejaculation, understood, which is coming through in the context of a male-female union to produce child, understood. The spark or the mind, remember, already brought man that represented being before the physical, and the woman that represented matter, brought them into unison with each other in order to create the conduit for it to come through and express itself in the physical as the mind child. Understood? So that's where that, you understand, we each are representing those same principles, but as we took you from that journey, original journey, it's the development of things, being, becoming, became. Understood? And so this is part of the process within that. And life force ether obviously is the mechanism that allows the spark or that aspect of the mind to come through. So that plug-in or connection that you see there with the showing that the mind or the brain, so mind, and so the brain using the mind, and so to hold that connection, so it has the ability to express itself in these lower planes. Life force ether obviously facilitates that mechanism primarily through the sexual organs. Now, what's interesting in 295, not to do people like that, but in 295, remember what is, if you look at the end of the journey on those three suns, for example, let's go back to, excuse this, close your eyes if needed. Let me show you that original. So you look at those four suns again. Yeah, so thinking about going through this journey, think about those four suns again. So you get to that Amun point, isn't it? Yeah, so Amun is considered to be spent energies as thought and sound. Yeah, spent energies as thought and sound. So Amun, so you think about this class today, for example, when we finish, or when the student teacher finishes, yeah, for that at least time between those two time periods of start and finish, one would have expressed themselves. Do you understand? Yeah, so expressed everything you had to say mentally, and then when it was finished, the residual would be thought and sound, because we're speaking, we're expressing, yes, ourselves mentally, correct? But however, so the class finishes, that's the end, isn't it? But what then happens is, in order then to facilitate it to continue in different forms and formats, yeah, listen to what I'm saying. We add min. Let me say it again. We add min. Yeah. And so therefore that allows it then to continue. So we might convert it then into, I don't know, a YouTube class, which you can access through the channel, or Facebook on the mechanism. It basically goes from live, and then you have it converts that live into a recording. Do you understand? So min is the delivery mechanism. This is why when you see Amun depicted as min, what is it? Stand there as an upright man with an erect penis, understood, or phallus, pointing in a certain direction, pointing in front. You understand? Because what is the phallus? The phallus in that context is a delivery mechanism. Do you understand? Yeah, it's a delivery mechanism. Like it is, it basically is carrying the mind. That's why men are called men. Yeah, as part of mental, to carrying the mind to deliver into the woman. You understand? So that the woman can then build, yeah, the body and cultivate this the human being to exist in human form. Or let's just say, right, being. Cultivate the being to exist in human form. Understood? Yeah. So this is why, this is why we, as black people, I say we struggle, is because no one wants to do the admin. Yeah. No one wants to do the recording bit. So everybody loves to talk. Yeah, but when it comes now to do the work afterwards, or the actions to facilitate how thoughts become reality, yeah, how those thoughts and sound get cultivated to become, or to be physical actions, or to become a physical reality, people don't want to do the work because everybody's the star. Everybody wants to be the sun. Yeah, the big Billy Big whatever. And there's a term I would say, but yeah, everybody wants to be the star. Understood? But as stars, we have to add min to the star in order for the thoughts to become reality. Do you understand? Yeah. So you hear what I'm saying? Yeah. So look up min in relation to Amun. Yeah. So, and who is Amun? We say Amun Nabab Reye Akhtar. So, yeah. So this is a point where we first became into the, so right knowledge, right wisdom, right understanding. Do you understand? Yeah. So, into sound right reasoning. Yeah. So all this is saying, or it was describing as well for us here in physics, is a mentality shift. Each time we're growing, isn't it, mentally, or the link, let's say, maybe the better way to describe it, is getting stronger. It's more acute. It's more concentrated to the point where it will eliminate, understood, all adverse thoughts. So the only thing that's flowing through is not, or the only conduit, the only thing that we are conveying and communicating by choice is night ether. You understand? Not polluting it with other, understood, elements that we don't wish to be there. You understand? Unless we're in control of them. Understood? Yeah. So that makes sense. Look up min, because I didn't put a picture of min on here, but if you look up min, that's Amun's depiction. So the min, which is I think the Arabic word for from as well, but min is a delivery mechanism. Yeah, that's what it's described.
Can I come in for a second? You have a block on the screen.
I have a block on the screen. Is it still there?
Still there. It's gone now.
It's gone now. Okay, appreciate that. Okay, it might be in the mouse.
It's just come back.
Let me just one sec. Describe it to me. How big is it?
Bottom right. Small block. So it's not covering the text at the moment. Now it's gone.
Okay, can't see it. Still there?
It's come back, but it's not covering the text. But when you've gone to it,
I'll stay in that mode then for the moment. Is it not covering the screen now? Is it
not covering the screen? It's just fine.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that. Okay. Right. So, where was we at now? So the importance of the delivery mechanism. Yeah. So in this terms of the symbols of life journey, that's what you're seeing there. So you have to understand that that aspect of things. So let's move on to some different types of ether. Yeah. So again, continue this. So this is away from the holy tablets now, and we're looking into other types of ether. So here, I'll make this a bit bigger on my screen. What we're seeing here is that we've got what we're describing here as helping ether. Yeah, par masur or ahach. Yeah, and so helping ether, and we can see here some element of it being received here by. So this is Atun, yes, and then these rays being distributed down to us here as human beings. This is Anach en Atun, understand? And obviously they're holding cups to receive this particular energy, symbolically speaking. So the sun's rays, sunshine, is the physical life and light of the physical world. So this is describing helping ether. We have another type, and this is describing head ether. It says it's the reason, mental and spiritual light, and the light of the physical world. Yeah, so part description. And then we get a combined definition here. We're saying you Nagaru Negroids by nature has grown on the best and richest part of the planet, Africa, the sun-drenched part, for you to become helping ether and head ether. For all others, you are the gods of the Kawaktaha, planet Earth, Muach, Etherians. So, excuse me, all the things that were being expressed there in the background in terms of the holy tablets, correct? And then it's saying to you that for you to become, helping ether, and head ether. So you become part of the distribution network as a transference that allows what? Energy to move from one place to another. And in certain instances, ether, or us as ether, must build the infrastructure, you understand, where it sometimes may not exist or is damaged. You must rebuild it in order to facilitate this transference of energy. So interesting enough, when you look at our prayer system, for example, yes, which we're talking about part Ashutat. Now we don't prostrate the reason why we don't do that anymore is because we don't prostrate in prayer. And the reason why you don't prostrate in prayer is because you are that deity. So who are you prostrating to? We speak to our ancestors and we make requests of them. They are them, they are us. Now that doesn't mean any disrespect, but we're not in subservience to them. Do you understand? Because we are them, they are us. So you don't prostrate in prayer. But the interesting thing about the Parashutat process, when you read the book, it explains to you that we're taking light energy, for example. So in one of the prayer positions, as I think I talked about last week a little bit, but your palms are facing upwards as opposed to the cupped hand that you see in the ka'ah. So one is a receiving position and one is a distribution position. Yeah, it's an outward. So one is receiving, one is expressing. So one is expressing outwardly. So we were taking light energy within that process, do you understand, and converting it into tachyonic energy, which is the glue of the universe. So we're using ourselves as a sort of a transformer within the system of Pa'ut, or nature, natural nature, and we're helping to maintain existence. Understood? So it's saying us as helping ether, we're receiving these sun's rays and then converting them into a different type of energy to facilitate existence. So this is what's tachyonic energy. It's what's holding everything together, the glue of the universe. So when you think about Partak Yud, where you are describing yourself, well, I'm a part of all and all is a part of me. You're describing yourself as being one who helps. So you're being part of it. You are merged yourself. You're not separated as one. Your one really means whole. You're making yourself a part of things and you're facilitating growth. Yeah, as your continuous act of service. Understand? To serve life, growth, existence, the things that are necessary to power all those processes. Yeah, you're a part. Well, we are a part of that. Understood. And this is what this is expressing ourselves, is why we flagged it up for you to become, to learn to be in that place or position. Do you understand? So we start off as very individualistic, selfish beings, even spiritually. A lot of people who do spiritual practice or whatever indulge in that. Yeah, they can invest it in a very selfish way sometimes. Well, as long as I pray, as long as I do my bit, as long as I do that. If you don't add service to it, it's for nothing. Do you understand? Because everything in nature, when you look at the examples, is serving you, isn't it? The sun. So that's why I said last time, the best things in life are free. But when you step down one point back from free, what is it? It's the most expensive thing that could ever be within existence. The best things in life are free because they're unique. I suppose they're priceless, almost. You understood? So they can't be bought by any amount of money. Do you understand? They're priceless. So, but free is really, the things in free are what other life forms are gifting. You understood? Yeah, without reward, without any draw for reward. It's providing, isn't it? Yeah. So providing, the sun is providing, the earth and the planet is providing. Yeah. If we work with the system. For as much as that particular life form can sustain itself to provide the best of itself, it will do so. You understand? Over time, clearly that changes as life forms become weaker and then prepare for transformation. Understood? But this is the role everybody has to play. Now, the reality is that the reason why some people don't want to be in service, is because people want to do their own thing. They don't want to be tied into. Where they're locked into a process where you have to be responsible, where you have to respond. Understood? If we say, we're going to do such and such every week at this particular date and time, now you're locked in, isn't it? Yeah. So if you say you're going to do a class, we're going to do class every Wednesday on this particular subject, now you're locked in. Your Wednesday is not your own Wednesday anymore because you've decided now to serve other people. So now, okay, well, I used to do this on Wednesday. I used to have free time. Now I've got responsibilities. I can't do what I want to do on Wednesday because I'm in service to others as part of the system, isn't it? But people don't want to do that. They want to do what they want to do when they want to do it. So it doesn't mean they won't help. It just means that I don't want to be locked into a cycle of helping, because that means I can't do what I want to do every Wednesday. I've got to move my stuff around this. Well, this is what happens, isn't it, when you have children, for example? Yeah, now your life's not your own. You got to a certain age, your life has got to be now scheduled around what the children are doing. Understood? And if you have children at a young age where you didn't get time to work off, you understand? Or you're going to feel like, oh God, I was cheated out of my 20s or whatever the case may be, because I had a child when I was young. You had to burn out what you wanted to do or desires or whatever the case may be before you took on certain responsibilities. How they have it in this society, at least. Where in actuality, not to say we can't have fun, but we always were supposed to be responsible because that's how we were built. You understand? And our whole life is about developing ourselves to, as we then take on greater responsibilities, is preparing us for the ultimate responsibility to be part of nature. So if we see the sun and all these and the planet, etc., as inanimate objects, which they kind of give that impression in this society, and not as living life forms, then you're not really going to understand the Natharu in that way. Yeah, and what you need to do to transform yourself from a mortal into an Natharu. Yeah, in that film, that it's a rubbish film, but Baba told us to watch it. My teacher told us, or Nabab Yaanuwn told us to watch it. I think it was a redepiction. I think it's called Gods of Egypt. That was it. You understand? Gods of Egypt. I've said this before, but it's useful to probably repeat. Yeah. So there was two interesting things that was pointed out to us to make note of. One was the fact that I'll say a few things, but one of them was the fact that the deities as they were shown there in that movie were much larger than human beings. And actually, if you look on the depictions of the Anunnaki, it's a similar thing. They show them, but they're much larger in size than human beings. That was one observation. The second observation was when they got injured or their skin was cut, they bled blood. Excuse me, their blood. They bled blood. Of course, you bleed blood. Let me correct myself. They bled gold. Yeah, so they bled gold. So in there, running through their bloodstream, was that separated them from the human beings was that they bled gold. Yeah, so we see the link to monatomic elements and part of our transformation. Yeah, and why the Barathri gland at one time used to secrete liquid gold into our bloodstream, which optimized our DNA and RNA, you understand, for faster or higher levels of energy transfer or communication. Do you understand? So by way of our DNA. So thought a lot far. Well, basically we thought in superhuman terms that they would classify as. And those talents and abilities are dormant within us currently. The other thing that was noticeable was that basically when you look at the relationship between who they were calling Horus and Ray, yes, Horus, basically, his issue was that he wanted to do what he wanted. That's how the depiction is. I'm not saying it's anything in relation to our stuff, but what it's showing is Horus was doing his own thing. Yeah, doing what he wanted to do on his own time. Understood? Yeah, and he was constantly being questioned about when are you going to effectively grow up. You understand? And take on board your birthright and your responsibilities. But the issue was when you look at Ray, Ray had to do a particular task on a daily basis, which I think was, they showed him pushing the sun, I think it was across the sky, to block the negative, the sub spiritual, whatever, demonic forces from entering into the realms. He had to carry out this particular task on a daily basis. If he didn't do it, the risk was that these lower forces would enter into the physical and obviously take over, and you know, the kind of good and evil demons roaming the earth and all that kind of stuff. Yep. So the point is that the higher up you go, yeah, the more his life was not his own. You understand? So yeah, even though he was a powerful individual, powerful being, you understand, in the context, his life, he didn't have the freedom of not being responsible. Does that make sense? Yeah. So he didn't get to just do his own thing. Listen, I fancy going over and sitting in the Bahamas on a beach 24/7. No, on a daily basis, he had to fulfill this particular task. And I suppose in that way, it's symbolic of, not that your life's not your own, but you've got to dedicate more of your life to doing the things necessary, yes, to serve. Let me just remove this second now. Yeah, to serve. You've got to do all these things to remove, yeah, your individualism goes. You're in a state of service. You understand? Just bear with me 1 second, computers. Okay, yeah, you're in a state of living where you're in service, as I say, to others. Yeah, so this is the point we just make it in that regard. So Ray, in that, he did his life on his own, whereas Horus, until he started to take on those responsibilities, he had the ability to do his own thing. So whether you learn that before you leave this life, or whether you have to learn it in lives to come, do you understand, or whether you're still learning it, is what we need to sort of think about. So now we're having the right information. We should be contemplating, as children of the Natharu, what these responsibilities are, what these higher states of existence are, because ultimately our sun has sat in its position for 93 million years, understood, and continues to sit in its position, and it doesn't get to wander off and listen, I fancy going Orion today. And now, yeah, or I fancy, yeah, I'll go to Arcturus today to see some of my brethren. It doesn't get to work in that fashion. Do you understand? So now there may be ways in which it is able to have the ability to separate itself and exist mentally in other places. And maybe that's its ability or capabilities that it has. But it must perform its functions on this plane of existence. Otherwise, how many trillions, or billions into trillions of life forms, are going to suffer as a result. So people understand, well, I don't want to put myself in that position, yeah, of responsibility. But the issue is, well, how are you going to expect things to change if you don't change? How are you going to expect things to change if you are not responsible? You understand? So everything must be real, or it's about you, to you, and what you can contribute, as I say, to everybody else. And that's the true aspect of service that everybody must contemplate with, and to what extent they are a part as opposed to being an individual. Because if we're all individuals, then as Partak Yud expresses, we are destined to fail. Okay, so universal ether, in its context. So let's see what it says here. So another type of ether. Yeah. So universal ether. Universal ether 105. Universal ether. This is from Neuroscience of Wu-Sabat. Universal ether is all ether produced, universal orbs, and spirit lights of fire. Yeah, we'll come into that in a bit. 106. And these are the sparks of brain synapses. 107, or Shara spark. Yeah, 150. Universal ether is the combination of all elements and all kinds of matter that can become energy at any given point in this dawar cycle of time and space. Yeah, so that is also partly of what we read, isn't it? Back in the proof last week, a similar statement. Let's look at other expressions of universal ether to help us out with this understanding. So, natural ether, so there's another type of ether, natural ether, yeah, is universal energy, meaning it exists. 109 is universal energy. It exists everywhere, either in potential or I think this is it, or active form. The potential. This is the potential or spirit and active. Excuse me. This is potential or spirit and active or physical body. You understand? 110. It is the blood and mind of universal energy that pervades, be present and apparent throughout all. 111. Natural ether is the physical light, life, spark of life, electrobiochemistry and biology. 151, we're stepping forward another definition. Natural ether is the Pa'ba'a, the soul of the life force of the Wahuma Kwan universe and the Nagar person and things therein. Yeah, so we're connecting all those elements together there, you understand, is, yeah. And 152, the rules and cycles of natural nature ether performs point spontaneously and is indeed efficacious. That means natural ether as blackness, the black dot, it works automatically and is able to balance all nature by the removal of chaotic light. 153. Supreme balance blackness is able to do what must be done and can do it with perfection. So here, so we see that natural ether is a number of things, you understand? And if you see here, which is important, is that it's saying to you, natural ether as blackness, the black dot, it works automatically to remove and balance all nature by the removal of chaotic light. So this is interesting because the question is that if we as Nagaru are correctly processing, you understand, the black dot, because the black dot, when we think about what we've read previously, is basically nuts or brain etheric seeds. I'm going to go on to recap them. So if the only pits and then the smallest things, yes, known that can be called, that can be considered as matter, understood within existence, yeah, is brain etheric seeds. So the question is, if as we are able to process these brain etheric seeds, because we're the only race on the planet that effectively is able to take them in, you understand, and then have the right amount of temperature to basically melt them down into forms where basically it can be used to facilitate basically the transfer of mental energy or mental communication. Do you understand? So excuse me. So the black dot, or the origin of these things, if as it's been expressed here, or as it's being expressed here, has the ability to remove all chaotic light. You understand? I.e., in this context, be negative things that are affecting us as Nagaru or Negroid. Then are we processing natural ether correctly? Are we expressing it correctly? If it has the ability to do what is being expressed here, to rebalance, understood, the environment. Yeah? Or is it coming into us and we're changing it into something else, which means that it's not, as it's been described here, efficacious. Yeah, because efficacious was talked about, it describes a thing's effectiveness to fulfill a set purpose. Do you understand? So are we as individuals taking in this energy or this link and then changing it into something that it's not supposed to be doing. Hence why, understood, yeah, the sons and daughters of chaos are ruling this environment. Something to think about, understood? So here, let's just step back slightly. Excuse me. So we see here the link, sparks of life, brains, synapses. Do you understand? So all of this is facilitation of mental communication. Do you understand? And so when we talk about the neuroplasticity of the brain, this is, remember, talking about the brain's ability, going back to the proof, is that the brain's ability to learn new things, you understand, and as well as adapt itself to new environments. Understood? Yeah, so based on certain information, new neural pathways get created, and these pathways can be strengthened, do you understand, by repetition or doing of the same activities in particular, or they can be weakened over time. Obviously, if you don't, there's a lack of repetition or lack of development in that regard. Understood? But this is key also to us having the ability, clearly, to perceive ourselves, because remember, as we expressed in the last class, there's no out when you're as part of Papa Ut, there's no outside, there's only inside. If there is a side, there's only in. Understand? There's no out to look in. Understood? So one of the ways, I should say, in which the brain is wired, it's wired in a way that we can perceive ourselves, isn't it? You understand? And that we can study ourselves. And so this is quite important. I'm not going to go into it in too much in this one. I may cover it more next week. Yeah, is how, at least in the physical aspect of things, yeah, you can't be less than yourself and still be you, which makes us deity from a certain perspective. Obviously, to us, we can't be less than ourselves. You can't exist, or at the moment you haven't got a mechanism to exist and live as your knee. You haven't got a mechanism, for example, to lower yourself and exist as your heart, or to exist as your lungs. Yeah, another part of your body, which your part is you're in control of it, but you can't lower yourself to express yourself to be that. You understand? Yeah, you can exist in certain points in the mental. So when you really look at religion and their definition of God, can God be less than God and still be God? No. God had to create angels. Why did you create angels? Well, in one sense, you would have to create angels in order to identify or be able to report on aspects of self, you understand, to get feedback if something was going wrong or something was, working right, in order for you to know about it. Otherwise, because you can't be less than self. So if you think about it, if I damage my knee, for example, understood, what happens now is that you go to a doctor or some kind of physio, you may get a scan to look inside of what's taking place inside your knee or whatever, you understand, or whatever part of the body is not working, but let's say knee in this instance. Yeah, so you had to go external to look at something that's internal. Why can't you reduce yourself down and see exactly what's happening inside your knee? It's your knee. It's your knee, isn't it? So how come you can't go inside yourself and look and see what's happening with your knee? You're only reacting to things in your knee, if it's pain or things like that, which are taking place. You understand? So effectively, even if we had superior technology or whatever, like nano probes or whatever that could be inserted and then go and fix, that's the equivalent of using angels to go down, or creating angels to go and look at lower aspects as well, because I can't be less than what I am. Yeah, my mind will only go down to a certain level of existence. You understand? So I would have to create things in order to study myself on a certain level because I'm limited by certain rules, yeah, within existence. And so I don't know if I've made that clear, but if you understand that, you're going to see why their God has limitations in their Bible, because God is a man or God is a woman, a human being in that regard. You understand? Because why would an all-powerful being need angels? Yeah, so there's a limit, but yet it's a part, isn't it? You can see the whole. But when you're in this position like we are as deity or minds incarnate, yeah, into this physical, we're limited to a certain. I say limited. It's not limited in terms of that, but it's limited to a certain perception. You can't be less than what you are. You can't be your toe. You're saying you can't be your nail. I'm not saying you're not your nail. I'm saying you can't exist as that and still maintain the functions of you being at the top or the head of your universe. Do you understand? I'll leave that there. That's something to explore a bit later. But you understand? Yeah, you can't be you and be less. So we are deity. We are that supreme being. Understood? But yeah, you're limited to what you can descend down or to what level you can descend down to express yourself. So you have to then, but the brain is wired in a way where it has the ability to study itself. So not all things are laid out, not all things are known. Yeah, things can be discovered. Yeah, by using, as I say, or you may use other life forms to express and give feedback. Yeah, so that you can study yourself. We use tools all the time externally for that purpose. Understood? But you know what I mean? Other things can be created to do that purpose and feedback as well if you don't want to go down or can't go down to a certain level. You understand? Remember, our ancestors, the Riskians, created the Greys or the Ramadians to send them into environments to study those environments. Why didn't they go themselves? They created other beings to go and do the work, to do the scouting or whatever, to study certain environments to see if they were suitable for, different types of terraforming or manipulation or whatever the case may be to fulfill a certain purpose. And then once they finished those tasks, they gave them their freedom. Understood? But they created beings, because they didn't want to come down to do into the physical to do that work. Understood? So here in the physical, we're limited to a certain level of what we can express ourselves downwards because of who we are as these beings carrying, not even just carrying, we are the mental being, but then the body is not who we are in the sense of, you understand? It was created to allow our minds to exist in this environment. Understood? Okay, where are we at next? Okay, well, I just coming into this. So, ether negrogenesis. So this is what we were sort of reading about previously. Interesting enough, I suppose the proof and natural ether energy. It's the same kind of expression, but maybe more detail in some of the later books. So 148, as natural ether energy, brain energy magnetically and magically come together. So we've expressed that to you all about the powers of absolute matter and absolute vacuum. Yeah, and what can take place as a result of that. And unites to process ether negrogenesis. That is what? Growing brain cells and creating new neural pathways, and the ether, mind, and reason again is starting to regrow by way of Wu-Sabat, growing and developing the new being or body of your organism that the brain needs to have for survival and support, as I said, your neuroplasticity to enhance neural pathways. Understand? So again, so this is what this ether negrogenesis is that we've been talking to you about this expression of the mind going forward. Do you understand? and how it, as I say, because the characteristics of ether will what? Create the mechanism for transfer, but also will build the infrastructure necessary to allow you or mind or mental to exist in the location that it's being it's transferring itself into. Understood? Yeah. And for us, this is known as egogenesis, as far as saying mental ether informing the work of the brain. Understood? Yeah. Okay. I think we'll stop there. Stop there and continue next week. We'll stop there and continue next week because this is just going into a bit more detail what we've been touching upon today, but we're just re-exploring some of the things that we've got in a bit more of a simpler way. Not simpler as in thing, but it's just giving it in a way to help you to understand what we read about in the proof, and then we'll go back and read what we're looking at in the proof and see if it makes sense now as we've gone a bit around the houses to get into that level of detail, and we'll explore as well this diagram, which is also in the proof. Yeah, but it's what I'm going to show. It's a diagram which is in the proof, which once we've explained everything, you should understand it, and we'll explore a little bit, as I say, around how that links into the original periods, not the Giza ones, but the ones in Sudan, which are the Giza pyramids are a renovated version of those, and how that ties in together to what we're talking about here. Okay, any questions before we close? And thank you for staying on a bit longer. But any questions before we close? That was probably heavy.
Yeah, brilliant class. There are no questions today at all.
Okay, no problem. So I guess either we're clear or we're not clear. So it's one of those.
Yeah, it's one of those.
We're clear or we're not clear. So, but yeah. So
can I just my apologies. Can I just say that a question has been asked to myself, and the question is, what are brain synapses?
Okay, good question. So what we're going to do is show a little diagram. All right. So what you see here is so synapses basically are nerve endings, yeah, that basically will allow transmission basically of these brain etheric seeds, understood, from one point to the next point to create the pathway. And so that connection is referred to as a synapse. So where you've got this transmission point to this transmission point, and these brain etheric seeds communicating with each other, that is referred to as a synapse. So what happens, let's say, if you want to learn how to play the piano, for example, yes, or you've never played the piano before, and you want to learn how to play the piano, or start to learn how to play the piano, because a new activity, a new synapse in the sound will be created as that connection, understood, to facilitate that habit. You understand? And what this is basically describing is the way that works. So they would talk about synapses as a new connection, do you understand, or a new pathway that's connected because you're engaging in a new activity. So this is one of the characteristics of the adaptability of the brain to learn new things, or certainly in human beings or supreme beings, in a sense, is that we can create new synapses as we learn new activities. Understood? So the synapses describing these two sort of nerve endings or neurons, as they're being classified as, and it facilitating the taking up of, so absorption and then distribution, in a sense, of these brain etheric seeds or brain or newts, or black dots as they're referred to as. And when they pass that, so absorb and then spit them out, I suppose, to connect to another neuron, that process, when they're connected, is referred to as synaptic or synaptic pathway, because of the connection that's been established. Any other questions?
No further questions.
No question.
Okay, so we'll touch. We'll touch on more of this, as say, next week. So next class is next Sunday again, same time. And as I say, we will go into, because I think we've covered ether in some detail, in different types and different ways to show you that, and ether neurogenesis. So we'll go into a little bit more detail around, as I say, the universe itself, or our universe, let's say, or universe, but more focus on our universe and the correlation in with that. And then we'll do an exercise where we're looking at the rule of as above, so below, and then come back to where we're looking at in the proof. So that should take us in a bit of a circle, but then come back to where we were reading off that page in the proof. And so that should give you a solid understanding of what's taking place there. So appreciate everybody's time today. Please join us if you can do next week. This class, if you need to recap it, is either will be on the Facebook page, but this class should be on our channel this week. So if you need to go over anything that we've discussed and inform other questions that you may have, then by all means, please look for that on our YouTube channel. If you subscribe, then you'll get notified when that class is available on that regard. So again, we've given the references, I think, to most books that are on the page. Some are not available, some are. So check out your local All Eyes on Egypt store. If you don't know where that is, then check out UnitedSapiensWorldwide.com. There's a list there of stores that may be local to your area. We would maybe get some of these publications if you want to go into them in more detail. Okay, with that said, so we'll see you next time at 1 o'clock. It's entry from 1 o'clock. And so we'll see you next week if you're able to join us. Okay, take care all. We'll see you soon.